more time to explore, and every Viking voyage is all-inclusive with no children and no casinos. Discover more at Viking.com. CVS Health supports people in the moments that matter, from picking up a prescription to connecting care. With nearly 5 million daily interactions and serving 185 million consumers and 1.5 million healthcare professionals, CVS Health holds a trusted place in healthcare. By simplifying care and improving health, we're helping people get the care they need. Learn more at cvshealth.com/Investor Day.
I'm Jordan Wilcox, your Utah tax attorney. When life gets overwhelming, some things tend to fall by the side.
I'm Carlos Sanchez from Draper, Utah. I was managing a business, helping out a business, doing paperwork and getting paid, and my wife got sick. We filed taxes, but then we got audited. And when I went and talked to the IRS, they didn't give me any choice. The IRS pretty much said, this is what you owe us, when are you gonna pay us? And we're talking quite a bit. But every time I drive, I listen to the radio. Jordan Wilcox, Jordan Wilcox. So I figure there's a reason this guy's on the radio. So I called him.
Put an end to IRS collection and aggression today.
The amount that the IRS came up with, close to $250,000, and the offer in compromise was about $7,600. That's it.
This is Utah tax attorney Jordan Wilcox. Let's solve your IRS nightmare. Visit endtaxworry.com.
Go for it. The outcome, it was worth it. I'm okay.
endtaxworry.com.
I'm Christian Staples with Arctic Spas. Christmas comes early at Arctic Spas, and you know you're going to want something different this year for Christmas, and that is a hot tub, swim spa, sauna, or cold tub in your backyard. Christmas is about spending time with loved ones, and there is nowhere better than spending time in hot water. No phones, no distractions, just relaxing face-to-face time. If you have never tried it, this will be life-changing. To make this Christmas even easier, we are offering 25% off on all in-stock models with guaranteed delivery for Christmas. So the best Christmas present ever, quality time with loved ones, relaxation, guaranteed delivery for Christmas, savings of 25%, and you get to enjoy it over and over year after year. Nothing is better. Pick out your perfect hot tub, swim spa, all-weather pool, sauna, or cold tub at arcticspasutah.com or visit one of our 3 stores covering all of Utah in Salt Lake, American Fork, and St. George. Arctic Spa, the only spa built for Utah's harsh climate.
We have emergency traffic and weather brought to you by Mountain America's Visa Triple Rewards. No improvement there, Jason, huh?
Not much. The right lane and right shoulder remain blocked, and now they got another emergency vehicle over on the left shoulder, so it's pretty nasty if you're northbound I-15. The accident just past Center Street in Provo there has delays all the way back to 4th South in Springville. Once you're past that, you're going to be good to go, but it's going to take you a while to get through that stretch at this point in time. A little slowdown as you approach the point of the mountain right now. Southbound I-15 out of Davis County, you're still going to run a little heavy from the north interchange on and off down through Rose Park into downtown Salt Lake City. And if you are out in Tooele, it's still going to take you a while to get through that construction zone, SR 36 Mills Junction to Lake Point, and then also over on I-80 as well. Two Brothers Mattress, don't miss their huge Black Friday sale going on now on all Tempur-Pedic mattresses. Save up to $500 on Tempur-Pedic mattresses. Visit twobrothersmattress.com. I'm Jason Jones in the KSL Traffic Center.
Partly cloudy today. The highs will be in the mid-50s, and we'll stay there for the rest of the 7-day forecast. Right now, it's 41 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Well, it's finally here. The special session of the Utah Legislature begins today. Of course, we talked about it a lot yesterday, Holly, some of the things that they were going to do, a couple of bills, a couple of resolutions. One resolution in particular, I was a little surprised to read this morning, and you provided that to me.
Well, this resolution, yeah, so first of all, our listeners need to know resolutions are not binding. They're not actually law, but they certainly are a way to send a message. And so this resolution is called a joint resolution because that means it's coming from both the House and Senate side regarding constitutional authority. And the general description just says this resolution reaffirms the constitutional and statutory role of the legislature in redistricting. But you get all the way down to the therefores, and that's at the bottom, and it says, therefore be it resolved, the legislature of the state of Utah condemns the Utah Supreme Court's activist rewriting of the Utah Constitution and its creation of the unfounded doctrine of super laws. And then be it further resolved that the legislature condemns the district court's disregard for the Utah Constitution, for Proposition 4 as enacted by the people, and for the separation of powers that protects Utah's democratic institutions. Anyway, and there's a couple of other condemnations.
The unfounded doctrine of super laws.
Yeah.
I guess maybe I'm reading between the lines, but the super laws being the ballot initiatives, voter initiatives.
No, at the beginning, at the beginning of the resolution, they talk about the Utah Supreme Court. This is up at the beginning. The Utah Supreme Court contrived a quote novel and unfounded concept of initiated super laws, preventing future legislatures from amending those laws unless the judge agrees that a policy change is necessary, despite no such restriction appearing in the Utah Constitution. And then they say this super law doctrine contradicts over a century of Utah constitutional interpretation. So, I mean, what they're basically doing is they're laying out in a resolution that will pass. I mean, it's possible that there could be some changes to it, but there's a supermajority of Republicans. This bill will pass. They're laying out their opposition to the judiciary, right? Both the district court and the Utah Supreme Court.
Yeah, so what's a little bit troubling about this, Holly, is whereas it says in the remedial phase of the litigation, the district court disregarded Proposition 4 requirements. I think
that's an interesting argument, isn't it?
Right. I mean, because
they're trying to get rid of Proposition 4
right, that's
completely.
The legislature disregarded Proposition 4 requirements, but they claim that the court did. And another thing that they talk about here, and I'll get to this in a second, is that the court has where's the word? Undermines the separation of powers.
Which is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, that's ironic. Both of those are a little bit ironic.
Yeah, it is. And I would say the plaintiffs on the other side of this issue would say that it's the legislature that has disregarded the separation of powers, right? Because we do have a legal decision. So my question for you as a legal expert, even knowing that this is non-binding, I mean, I think it's really clear the Utah legislature as a body is very unhappy with the judiciary right now. We know that they're going to try, they're appealing to the Utah Supreme Court. They want the map that Judge Gibson selected thrown out again so that they can go back to the current boundaries. There will be one of the pieces of legislation they'll be voting on today is to move the deadline for filing for office for these 4 congressional candidates, right, so that they have a little more time. But my question for you, you passed this resolution that says we condemn the Utah Supreme Court, we condemn the district court, and then there's other stuff they're trying to do to already restrict those 2 bodies. What if the Utah Supreme Court upholds the district court's decision and the Utah legislature says we don't care?
Yeah, that's going to be a problem, and that's why I think they extended the filing deadline, because the filing deadline currently I think is the first week in January.
It is.
They now have said that the filing deadline is immediately after the legislative session ends in March.
Only for the 4 congressional candidates,
right,
or the 4 congressional districts.
Which
but yeah,
is right, exactly what we're talking about here.
That's
Only
right.
for the because I think they have something they intend to do or think that they'll be able to do in the legislative session that might make that. I mean, that's what I'm reading between the lines. They think
interesting.
They think after the
they'll be
legislative
able to
session
pass
is
a
over,
law immediately effective
right,
somehow
and
impacting the maps.
Right.
Oh.
There would be no other reason to do that.
Well, I just thought it was to give the Utah Supreme Court a little more time so that they could actually have a decision, take longer to make a decision. So,
I agree.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Thanks for sharing that
agree,
as a legal expert.
The time could be 30, 60, 90 days, not
Yeah.
necessarily at the end of our general session. You know what I mean?
Yeah, although I will say before it was January, it did used to be the end of the general session. That was the typical time for filing. So it could be, but I like where you're thinking. That's an interesting thought.
Yeah, and then I don't know, the separation of powers argument really troubles me. And by the way, this is you said it at the outset, Holly, a joint resolution. In other words, both bodies.
Right.
And they haven't passed it yet. It's something they'll vote on tonight.
Yeah, when they're in the special session. So they're going to have a committee hearing this afternoon. It'll be government ops, which is government operations, at 4 p.m. So any member of the public, anybody who wants to show up and potentially testify. I'm not saying that people who show up will have the opportunity to, because I suspect there will be a lot of people, and they have allocated 2 hours for that. So they'll have an opportunity to discuss these bills, right? They'll discuss them as a committee, and they'll open it to public input, whatever that looks like. It may be really restricted. It may be less restricted. I don't know. But members of the public can either show up or they can follow along online. If you go to le.utah.gov, le.utah.gov, you can find all of that information there. But after they have these committee hearings, and again, it's a supermajority Republican state, these bills will pass out of this committee. They'll call themselves into special session, and they'll gavel themselves in on the House side, on the Senate side at 6 p.m. Tonight. And then they will discuss these bills that have now come out of committee. They'll have some floor conversation back and forth. And then at the end of the day, they'll pass and everybody will be happy.
And they don't have a lot of bills. I think yesterday we talked about 2 and a couple of resolutions. So they'll vote on the resolutions and the bills?
Yeah, they will. And, we talked with Representative Tusher yesterday about this bill to undo the ban on collective bargaining. He said he doesn't think it's really going to have a committee hearing, and it's not on the agenda. That will just go straight to the floor because he feels like there's nothing to discuss, right? They're just going to repeal it.
I've got to imagine even the joint resolutions, even if they pass, I don't think it'll be straight down party line. I've got to think a couple of Republicans, especially those that are law trained, might think, well, the Supreme Court's got to have some.
You may have one or two, but I suspect it'll be a very strong party line vote.
And then tell our listeners, what does it mean? I mean,
so the resolution just sends a message, right? It's sending a message to the judiciary that they don't think they're doing their job the right way. And look, I also am reading between the lines, and there's also been some indication that this is the case. There will be legislation in the 2026 session that impacts the judiciary. One of the things that they're talking about openly is expanding the court. And even though Supreme Court justices, a couple of them, have openly said, we don't need it, we're not backlogged, there's no delay here, there are legislators that say we're going to expand the court. And the governor has indicated that even though he was formally opposed, he now supports that idea.
With the idea being, and I know we're almost out of time, potentially being able to pack the court, being able to put
that's what some people call it
in their place that they to help out.
It's an interesting conversation, right? And so when you have this separation of powers, I think sometimes there is a feeling that there is at least one body that thinks that they are maybe not co-equal branches of government.
Right.
All right. Interesting conversation, which leads right into our next topic. Trust in government is at an all-time low. So we're going to explore what needs to change to gain back the trust. Stay with us.
If your family is anything like mine, you probably have a child who's hoping Holiday Magic will put a new phone under the tree this year. But as a mom, I've seen firsthand how screens and online dangers have stolen childhood from our kids. That's why I chose TrueMe, the all-make kid-safe phone for digital wellness and positive emotional health. With TrueMe, I say no to bullies, predators, pornography, and social media, so my kids can say yes to fun, safe content, safe contacts, safe apps, and a safe browser. TrueMe is everything my kids need. A phone that truly grows with them without the distractions and negativity.
Right now, while supplies last, get a free device for the holidays with a new line activation at TrueMe.com. Plans start at $24.95 a month with no contracts or hidden fees, plus support from real people right here in Utah. That's TROOMI.com.
TrueMe. Create Christmas magic without losing the magic of childhood.
Winters along the Wasatch Front get cold, but imagine if your furnace isn't working. It may be hard to imagine, but the reality is there are families that could go this winter without heat. Join KSL News Radio and Gillette Heating and Cooling and give the gift of heat to deserving families with a Carrier furnace. If you know a family in need, please nominate them today at KSLNewsRadio.com. They could get a new energy-efficient furnace to provide warmth and comfort for many winters to come. Your house is your home, and with Gillette Heating and Cooling, we can make it a place where love isn't the only thing that warms your heart. Make your nomination today at kslnewsradio.com and give the gift of heat with Gillette Heating and Cooling at GilletteHVAC.com, a Carrier Factory Authorized dealer. Turn to the experts. Make your nomination at kslnewsradio.com.
Hi, this is Derek Overstreet, president of the New Millennium Group and co-host of Stop Working, Start Living with KSL News Radio. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you could retire 3 to 5 years earlier than you thought possible? The things you could do, the loved ones you could spend time with, the memories that you could create. That's what our team at the New Millennium Group does. We'll walk you through the entire process every step of the way. If you'd like to get a copy of the 5-step proprietary plan that will help you retire 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible, give us a shout right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com. Listen, most of our listeners right now have a tax problem, not a money problem. There's not enough money in Social Security Medicare as it is. Let us show you how you can significantly reduce your taxes. That's 888-999-6370, 888-999-6370, or utahsfinancialplanner.com.
You know, most diets will help you lose a few pounds, but Soda Weight Loss will help you lose years. I lost 37 pounds on the Soda Weight Loss program 3 years ago, and I feel younger than I've felt in decades. And it's not because of how I look, it's because of how I feel.
But you do look younger,
Thank
too.
you.
I let go of 70 pounds in 5 months, and then I looked at the before and after pictures of myself and was like, wow.
It's something when you don't have to carry all of that excess weight around. And I was at a stage in my life where I didn't want to add drugs to my regimen. I wanted to reduce the number of medications I had to take. So the nutritionist at Soda Weight Loss taught me how to have a healthy relationship with food.
And it was so helpful that I could text my nutritionist anytime I wanted to for advice, which helped me learn what I needed to know so that I could keep it off. And right now, this is the perfect time to join, because if you join now, your partner joins for free. It's the perfect gift for both of you.
It's at Soda Weight Loss.
SOTAweightloss.com, because soda is, say it with me, Amanda, state of the art.
Common Spirit Health. Hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advance healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with human kindness is here. Hello, human kindness.
Thinking about retirement? Make sure a My Social Security account is a part of your plan. A My Social Security account gives you secure access to your personal earnings history and benefit status. You can find out if you're eligible to receive benefits, compare retirement benefit estimates at different ages or dates, view spousal benefit estimates, and more. Plan for your future. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Inside Sources.
Good morning. Welcome back to Inside Sources. We talked about the special session of the legislature heading into tonight and the resolutions and bills that they're probably going to pass. Let's go on a broader scale and talk about our federal government, because a Pew Research study report just came out that shows only 17% of Americans say they trust their government. And I'm looking at this report, Holly. It's gone back to 1958. And in 1958, that number was 73%.
Yeah,
it's continued to drop. I mean, it has. I mean, there obviously ebbs and flows with any report, but this one has gone from 73% to now 17%, and continues dropping.
Well, what's interesting about this Pew Research study is it says basically, while trust in government has been low for decades, the current measure is one of the lowest in the nearly 7 decades since the question was first asked, and it was lower than even last year. So, look, I have to, before we bring on our guest, I have to tell you, I saw this story in The Atlantic. And so Dan Bongino, I think that's how you say his last name, admits to lying during his pundit days. Now, you have to remember, he's number 2 at the FBI.
Right.
Number 2 at the FBI. So if you remember, there's now a suspect who's been arrested in placing the pipe bombs outside the Washington, D.C. headquarters of the RNC and the DNC. And here's what this article says. Dan Bongino said, quote, "I was paid in the past for my opinions. That's clear. And one day I'll be back in that space. But that's not what I'm paid for now." And then admitted that he was peddling the lie that it was the U.S. government under Joe Biden who planted those pipe bombs to make Donald Trump look bad. Now, I can say that's probably a reason we don't have a lot of trust in government right now.
That's not just a lie. That's a pretty significant lie.
It's wild. Anyway, we have on the line with us Sean Teigen, Utah Foundation president, and he's actually quoted in this article. So, Sean, thanks for joining us this morning.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks for having me.
What is your initial reaction to this low level of trust in the federal government?
Actually, I hate to say it, but I'm not very surprised. I mean, part of that is because, if you look over the past 15 years or so, it's been very, very low that whole time. So the fact that it's, it is down a little bit. When you look back to 1958, I mean, it is astounding to see kind of how that dip has happened. But there have been a couple of dips in the past, and particularly you can see like in the early 90s, you saw a dip. But then really for the past 15 years, we've been kind of just floundering around this low level of trust in government in Washington to do what's right just about always or most of the time. We haven't been very confident in them.
Not surprisingly, Sean, I'm looking at the study as it relates to periods of time when a certain person was in the president's office, and Republicans tend to have more confidence in the government when there's a Republican president, and Democrats when there's a Democratic president. And it's been almost universal since this began. I suppose that doesn't surprise you at all.
So it kind of doesn't, but that part is the one that's more shocking to me, because when I'm asked, if somebody comes and asks me if I have trust in government in Washington to do the right thing, like, why would I, just because somebody from the other side of the political spectrum is in office in one position, not necessarily, they may not have the Senate, they may not have the House, but still it's this one person, and now I don't have trust. But then the next election cycle, the person from my party comes in, and then suddenly I have trust. I mean, that is a little bit shocking to me. And you see, and that is actually, when you look at this Pew research, the gaps are a little bit, they look like they're a little bit bigger now than they were in the past, particularly like when you brought up the 1950s and 60s and 70s. There was a little bit of that partisan gap. But it doesn't really start kind of blowing up until, and you see it from time to time. There were some in the Reagan years a little bit. In Clinton, it was actually surprisingly close. Like, people felt there was an improving time during Clinton, and I think people across the political spectrum felt pretty good. But then really with George W. Bush, we saw that bigger gap, and that gap hasn't closed since then. When Bush was in office, the Democrats didn't have trust. When Obama was in office, the Republicans didn't have trust. But really, starting with Obama, we've seen this lower level of trust that really we haven't dug ourselves out of a hole since he was elected in terms of our trust in government.
It's interesting. One of the things that's interesting to me about this is that this survey was concluded before the government shut down. I wonder if the numbers would be even lower if they had included that time frame.
Oh, I bet. I absolutely bet they would. And perhaps across, the political spectrum, it may have not, like for Republicans, maybe it hasn't gone up or continued to go up, and maybe has even dipped, and we've probably seen it dip even more for Democrats. I bet that's true. But this kind of political imbalance, I think, is pretty common across different types of measures. Like when you look at consumer sentiment, just a year ago or 2 years ago, we saw that Democrats felt pretty great about the economy and Republicans felt pretty bad. And now that is swapped so far that Democrats feel worse about the economy than really they ever have since this consumer sentiment survey has been taken by Michigan. And Republicans feel very, very good. And the gap between Republicans and Democrats is bigger than it's ever been. Independents are actually a little bit closer to Democrats in this position. But that gap is really increasing. And I think that just across not only government, but beyond that, into the economy and just our personal lives, we're seeing that larger kind of political gap between Republicans and Democrats. And we see that in some of our work at the Utah Foundation with our Utah Priorities Project as well.
Sean, can you tell our listeners about the Utah Foundation, what it is? You're the president of that.
Yeah, we're a nonprofit, nonpartisan public policy research group. We are an independent group that works on public policy topics from energy and the environment to taxation and transportation and everything in between. We study a lot of stuff, and this kind of trust in government question is just one thing one of very, very many things that we look at here.
So I wonder if you have proposals for what needs to change or ideas on what needs to change for Americans to be able to regain trust. I would say not only in government, but across the board with institutions, because I know trust level is low for many institutions.
I have to tell you, I'm so glad you asked me that question because we, in 2025, we at the Utah Foundation have been in the middle of what we call the Social Capital Index project. And this is something that we're going to be revisiting every 4 years. We did this back in 2021, and we basically look at social capital. And what that is, it's those connections and networks among people and individuals that can benefit ourselves and the community. So it can benefit maybe household economics, but it can benefit state economics. And really, in going through these types of social capital, like it's clubs, it's sports stuff, it's spending time with family, it's getting off of our screens and having conversations with people face to face. I think that I can't blame this all on Facebook and social media, of course, but it does feel like if we can push back against some of that and get back out into the community and talk to each other at coffee shops and libraries and churches, and part of that, this social capital, one of the reasons why we've seen that decrease is because in part because we're not getting into churches as much. I mean, there are a lot of opportunities for us to have conversations in the community and feel better about each other, and then and not have that kind of that party as a badge. And maybe you can learn that somebody is a Republican or a Democrat after you've had a meal with them and really enjoyed their conversation and come to an agreement on something that you learned in church or learned on the soccer field or whatever. So I think that social capital, I think, is maybe one great place where we can heal some of this divide.
Thank you, Sean.
Maybe get a little more trust in government. Hopefully,
there you go.
Hopefully that'll happen too.
Good lead out. Thank you. That was Sean Teigen with the Utah Foundation. Holly, Democrats' trust in the government right now is at 9%. Yeah. That's as low as they have ever been. Probably not surprising. Even Republicans are only 26%. Well, there is some good news for parents. Utah's youth are making healthier choices. Substance abuse is down. Family connections are up. What's driving this positive trend? We'll ask the Utah Department of Health and Human Services next.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. KSL's top story this hour: a Utah father is being held in an Arizona ICE detention facility. He was arrested while applying for his green card. Yair Zealous' attorney, Andy Armstrong, says Yair had shown up for his last green card interview when ICE took him into custody. Armstrong says he entered the country on a visa 18 years ago.
The law specifically allows for someone who is here that entered with a lawful entry to adjust their status, whether or not they are current in their status or they're out of status.
Yair coaches soccer, has a son, and is married to a U.S. citizen. Armstrong says he has no criminal history and is likely to be released. He says this is a waste of taxpayer dollars and people should know what is going on. Our top national story this hour: President Trump is now offering a $12 billion bailout to farmers impacted by his tariffs. Here is ABC's Lina Moise.
President Trump announcing a lifeline for American farmers hurt by his trade policies. Trump now planning to use revenue from tariffs to pay for a $12 billion bailout.
This relief will provide much needed certainty to farmers as they get this year's harvest to market and look ahead to next year's crops. And it'll help them continue their efforts to lower food prices.
The aid package is also expected to help, as he just said, lower food prices. Your money at this moment: the Dow is up 148. That's 0.3%. We are currently at 47,885. Coming up, we've got warm temperatures all this week in the 50s. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 9:32. Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Hey, this is Dan the Laptop Man from PC Laptops. Let me tell you an amazing story. Last week, a customer came in. They were a creative director for an agency, and they were frustrated that their old, slow computer wasn't processing their files quick enough. He had a big project due and could not afford any delays. Well, we hooked him up with one of our new, powerful 2025 desktops for only $999, and he was able to complete his project with ease. Take one home today. The new 2025 S1 desktop or SM3 laptop for only $999. You heard that right, $999. You get a blazing fast processor, 16 gigs of RAM, and over a terabyte of blazing storage for $999. What else you get? Lifetime service warranty, and we have 12 months special financing on approved credit. Hurry in right now because supplies are limited, because at PC Laptops, we love you. Just check us out at PCLaptops.com. $999, PCLaptops.com.
At Intermountain Health, we believe life is a circle. May yours surround you with insight, a healthy perspective, trust, and reassurance. The belief that our differences aren't that different, and compassion just when you need it most. Life is a circle. May yours help you live the healthiest life possible. Intermountain Health.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have Leaf Filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
To get this special radio offer, go to leaffilter.com/deal for your free gutter inspection today and get up to 30% off. That's leaffilter.com/deal for up to 30% off. leaffilter.com/deal. See representative for warranty details.
You're stubborn. Okay, be stubborn. Don't admit you have hearing issues, but they won't go away. You'll just suffer with them. But you don't have to suffer. My Hearing Centers will fit you with a high-tech hearing aid that's powerful and barely noticeable. So if you're suffering from hearing loss, or if you have a hearing aid but it's 3 years or older, you owe it to yourself to schedule a free consultation at My Hearing Centers by calling 801-438-7058. With locations from Ogden to St. George, be smart, not stubborn, with My Hearing Centers.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Visa Triple Rewards. And back to you, Jason.
And Amanda, they have cleared this accident northbound I-15 just north of Center Street in Provo. You do have some leftover delays in the area that kind of stretch back to Springville, but they're mostly getting cleared out here as all lanes are reopened. And we expect that to not be a problem anymore in the next about 15 minutes or so. It should clear out. If you are northbound I-15, though, approaching the point of the mountain, you're still going to be a little bit slow. Actually, it's right before Timpanogos Highway is where those slowdowns are going to start. 2100 north over to I-15 in Lehigh is also still fairly heavy. Everything else has mostly cleared out, except for that construction zone in Tooele. From Mills Junction up to Lake Point on SR36, you're still going to be very slow there. Find a nativity perfect for your home or to gift to loved ones, every style, every size, every budget. Celebrate the true meaning of Christmas with nativities at Deseret Book and DeseretBook.com. I'm Jason Jones in the KSL Traffic Center.
It's going to be partly cloudy and warm today, 52 for a high, 57 tomorrow. Right now it's 43 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
We're looking at some data from the Utah Student Health and Risk Prevention, SHARP, survey, which shows meaningful improvements in young people's mental health, family, and school connections, and a decrease in substance abuse over the last 2 years. This SHARP survey, Holly, is administered every other year to students in grades 6 through 12 in Utah schools. Parental consent is required to participate, but this year, more than 78,000 students from 590 schools participated, and that's a 52% increase in participation from the last year, and generally good news.
Yeah, and that number seems high to me, and that gives you some really good data. And we have with us on the line Rob Timmerman. He's the Prevention Administrator with the Utah Department of Health and Human Services. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
I'm wondering if you could start by just telling us what are some of the most significant improvements you've seen, and I'm going to assume it makes you happy.
It does make us happy. It means that a lot of really good work has been going on in families and communities throughout the state of Utah. We're seeing kids reporting better mental health overall. Like was mentioned, there's less kids using substances. We're seeing kids reporting that they're talking to an adult or someone they trust about things that are going on in their life. And these are really good things.
Rob, tell our listeners how the information is gathered. It's an anonymous survey among students. Is that how you gather this?
Yeah, right. This is a completely anonymous survey, and you mentioned that it is an opt-in survey. It's a parental consent survey, but we also give power to the students themselves. They can choose whether or not to take it, and it's administered to 6th, 8th, 10th, and 12th grade students throughout the state of Utah. Over 39 school districts reported data this year for us, and it's just a phenomenal way that we are able to get what's happening in the lives of students, really kind of understand what's going on, what they see, things that they are interacting with, and how they perceive their life and growing up in the state of Utah.
I am looking at your website, and it's got information about the study, and I'm seeing a number, 60% eat at least one meal with their family 5 or more times each week. That seems high to me. Is that historically that close to that number?
Yeah, we're actually increasing, and that's been one of the real positive things that we've seen. We've really made a concerted effort around the state to promote eating together as families as a protective factor. There's so many positive outcomes that are associated with eating meals together. The more parents are able to engage with their kids, the better. And the more meals that they can eat, even if it's just one a day, we see some really positive things that happen. Improved academics. Kids are more likely to get more sleep if they're eating together as a family. And then, of course, improvements in mental health and less use of substances. Yeah, eating together is a really, really important thing that all families can do.
Rob, what are the statistics as it relates to substance abuse? I mean, these are self-reported, but it's anonymous, so I would assume that you would have some level of confidence in their accuracy. But what's happening with young people? Tell us about that decrease.
Yeah, we're seeing across the board rates of using substances going down. This is self-reported data, but there's a number of really kind of intelligent checks along the way in the survey itself that we know that students are reporting accurately. These data reflect what's going on around the country and reflect trends that have been happening for a little while now. So we really have confidence in these numbers that students overall are using. One of the things that's really, really great and has been a concern for parents for quite some time now is the use of vape, e-nicotine products, and even cannabis use in vaping products. And we're seeing all of those trending down, which is really, really positive thing.
That is positive. I'm wondering also if you could talk to us about what this survey showed about screen time.
Yes, some really interesting things about screen time. It probably doesn't surprise us that most students report having a cell phone, a smartphone. And we've asked some really interesting questions for the first time this year and kind of found out that a large percentage of those students that have those cell phones are checking their phones quite often during the day, sometimes up to dozens of times during the day. And we know that is, something that can affect sleep. It's something that can affect overall well-being. It shapes kind of the attention that they can give to other things. And so it is interesting. We have 81% of students reporting that their parents have rules about screen time use, but far significantly less report that their parents actually kind of implement some enforcement of those rules. And so that's something that can be increased. A definite action item for parents out there is, good job in setting those rules about screen time. Now let's just pay attention and see what kids are actually utilizing their screens for and enforce those rules a little bit more.
Rob, has the department had this information long enough, and this may be an unfair question, to give us an idea of what's going on and why these numbers, because it's across the board. It's not just people are using drugs less. They're spending more time with family, school, improvements in mental health. I mean, do we have any idea, and I know I'm asking you to speculate, what's going on?
Well, thank you. I think there's a lot of contributing factors to that. I think, we've got a really positive culture here in the state of Utah around families and around what we call pro-social activities. And that's basically things that are helpful for you, your family, for your community, engaging in those things, service opportunities we talk about quite a lot. And so a lot of these things are contributing to how kids are really growing up. And again, we're seeing some of these trends around the country. So it's not just here in Utah, but kids are, they're resilient and they're showing some real positive things.
I have one final question for you. What is the biggest takeaway you would want parents to know about this survey?
That this is for you as a parent. This is really a way that you can utilize, information from your school, from your community to help what you as a parent do in your family, the decisions that you make, the conversations that you have with your children. We encourage parents to go to the SHARP website at the state of Utah, at sumh.utah.gov, and really get into some of the resources that are there for parents specifically, kind of even how to engage in some of the conversations that may be difficult for a parent to have with their kid. But really, one of the major things that we want people all over the state to know is that this information is for you to help you make sure that you can raise a healthy and happy and positive child.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Rob. That was Rob Timmerman, Prevention Administrator with the Utah Department of Health and Human Services, talking to us about this new SHARP survey that had over 78,000 responses.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we started the segment the show today with the legislative session, but then we talked about people's confidence in government, and it's at an all-time low. We go to Utah kids making healthier choices, which seems to be getting better and better. So we're on a little bit of a roller coaster here. Where are we going after this?
Not good news.
That's what I'm wondering, if we're continuing the roller coaster ride.
Oh, we are. We're going to talk about, after years and years of declining death rates, the global death rate for children under age 5 is going up, and I'm sad about that. But we'll talk about that after the break.
Utah is one of the best places to live, work, and raise a family. But for many Utahns, the dream of owning a home is slipping away. Home prices have risen faster than incomes, and families are spending nearly 2/3 of what they earn just to keep a roof overhead. From young graduates to grandparents, everyone is feeling the squeeze. Utah needs more homes, the right kinds of homes, so families can stay close and our communities can thrive. That's why Utah Workforce Housing Advocacy created Demand More Supply, a statewide effort helping Utahns understand the issue and take action in their own communities. Because when we work together, we can make housing affordable again for today's families and for future generations. Let's make the dream of owning a home a reality again. Learn more and add your voice at demandmoresupply.com. demandmoresupply.com. That's demandmoresupply.com.
Winter is here, and so is my microphone. And for many kids here in Utah that don't have warm coats and shoes, they need to get through these cold months ahead.
KSL's Quarters for Christmas has been helping local children for years, turning your donations into warm coats and shoes for kids right here in our own community.
Every dollar you give goes directly to providing coats and shoes for kids who need them most. It's easy to make a difference. Just go online to kslquarters.com, donate what you can, and know you're helping keep a child warm this winter.
Please join us in spreading a little comfort and a lot of kindness with KSL's Quarters for Christmas.
You trust us for news and information in your car. Now trust us at home. KSL News Radio has you covered, keeping you informed on the latest breaking news, weather, traffic, sports, and more. Listen on your Amazon Echo or Google Home device. Just say, Alexa, open KSL News Radio. Or listen on the KSL News Radio Listen app. Text the word app to 57500. KSL News Radio. We have you covered.
Tired of hearing scary radio ads about the IRS? Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000 or $500,000, we have a solution. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS with zero risk to you. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with a BBB. End your tax nightmare today by visiting TRA.com or call 800-583-6681. That's 800-583-6681.
Makita's built for the pros who show up early, who don't do shortcuts, only precise cuts. With tools built to last, job after job, year after year. Performance that pays off, because when the job calls for the best, you answer. And when you need the best, you call on Makita. Built to be the best. Available at the Home Depot.
Sometimes when our furnace stops working, it's something simple we can fix ourselves, if we only knew how. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and the next time your furnace stops working, before you call a company out to fix it, try this first. Go shut the furnace down and make sure your air filter is clean. Go around the house and make sure the vents are open and there's nothing blocking the return air. If it's been a while since you've changed the batteries in your thermostat, go ahead and do that too. Then go turn the furnace back on, and if it stays on, you're probably good. If it stops working again, you're probably going to want a technician to check it out. If you don't know one, Any Hour Services has a special offer for any homeowners listening. One of our HVAC technicians will diagnose and troubleshoot your furnace for only $29. Then they'll explain what they found and present you with repair options. And don't worry, our technicians service all brands. Call Any Hour Services and let them know you heard about this $29 troubleshooting special on the radio. 801-443-7400. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Now there's a new way to take charge of your blood sugar. Introducing New Garlic Healthy Blood Sugar Formula from the makers of the nation's best-selling garlic supplement. New Garlic helps maintain healthy blood sugar levels with clinically supported levels of garlic, plus a custom blend of vitamins and minerals, and it's odor-free. Take charge of your blood sugar with New Garlic Healthy Blood Sugar Formula. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Use as directed.
Welcome back to Winter Hack Radio, the place for clever hacks to survive the season. Icy driveway? Well, try spreading sand or birdseed to help with traction. Snowy puppy paws? Well, grab a whisk, brush it off, done. Catch COVID-19? Well, just get...
Actually, there's no hack for COVID-19. But if you test positive, prescription medications for COVID exist. Ask your doctor if they're right for you. Visit PfizerForAll.com to learn more. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Join Mike Stevens of Capital Wealth Advisors for Retire Right Radio, Saturdays at 5 a.m. and 9 p.m. That's Retire Right Radio with Mike Stevens, Saturdays at 5 a.m. and 9 p.m.
And expanded Inside Sources.
As we mentioned right before the break, this news is sad. The number of children dying before their 5th birthday is projected to rise for the first time this century. And for decades, it has been dropping. But according to new data published by the Gates Foundation, they estimate an additional 200,000 children will die this year before their 5th birthday.
That's right. The report said that in 2024, 4.6 million children died before turning 5. They're projecting, like you just said, that this year, 2025, that will increase by 200,000 to 4.8 million children. That's a significant increase.
And can we just remind everybody that these are children with families who love them? right? And how sad it is to bury a child. We have with us Lois Collins from the Deseret News, who wrote about this story. And Lois, just tell us, what is your take when you saw this report from the Gates Foundation?
I think it's really sad, and I think it's so. At the beginning of the century, we had almost doubled the number of children's deaths, and America and other countries went all in on providing things like childhood vaccines in third world countries and developing nations, providing health assistance, and really changed the trajectory. And now, for the first time, we're reversing it. And what has happened really is that we've pulled back on funding, and it's not just us. It's lots of countries: France, the UK, Germany. But we've pulled back on funding to help with these health issues for countries that don't have the resources. And the numbers are going back up again, and maybe they'll go back to where they were before, which would be tragic.
Because technology and research and medical care gets better and better every year, Lois. So you'd expect that would contribute to lower numbers. And I'm not surprised that the United States is not putting as much money, but globally you're saying that there's
other countries. The funding is down by about 26% right now, almost 27%, and they're expecting it to go even lower in the future as more nations say, "Oh, we don't have to contribute either." So,
or even if they say economically, we don't have the funds to contribute, right? So it is a financial thing. One of the things too that I think it's important to understand is it's not just quote unquote childhood diseases that are killing these kids, right? Some of it has to do with, for example, moms who are not getting appropriate prenatal care can't get hands-on birth care, right? And so they're not as healthy. They don't have as much food. They can't breastfeed their babies.
It's hunger. It's a bunch of things that are contributing. But there are things that we know how to deal with. There are diseases that we know medically how to deal with that some of these countries don't have access to unless the access is brought in from outside, and that makes a huge difference.
So a lot of this is attributed to countries that don't have adequate health care anyway.
Yes, correct.
And now they're being cut back because other countries that do are not contributing in the ways that they have in the past.
And they're not getting some of the preventive care that makes a difference too. Things like vaccines. We talk a lot about vaccines lately. It's not just vaccines, but that's part of it. We know that if we provide vaccines for certain things, then those conditions don't take children's lives usually.
Well, Lois, you've joined us before and talked to us about measles and how we're on the verge of losing the status. I think you said of eradicating. Is that
right?
What you
It's
called
considered
it?
eradicated, but it could go away. And Canada lost its status.
Right. So it's interesting to me that the only disease officially eradicated was smallpox. And that was just in the 1970s because of a massive vaccination campaign. And here we are on the verge of losing our status on measles. And just this morning, we have a new case in Utah. We're up to 116, I think.
Yep. Yeah. And it's likely to grow.
And it looks like some of the diseases include like malaria. I would have thought that had been eradicated.
In the United States.
And polio.
Tons of
Seriously.
mosquito-borne illnesses are problematic and kill people in places like the African continent. You know, there are lots of deaths. Typhoid, there are a bunch of things that we don't consider because we don't see it.
Right.
But in other parts of the world, they're very rampant.
And HIV. I mean, you don't think of that as affecting children, but obviously it does. Of course it does.
Yeah, and that was one of the things with PEPFAR, right? Undoing the funding for PEPFAR, and I think they reinstated it. But that basically was saying, look, in the United States, it's now considered a chronic illness, but it is still killing people all across sub-Saharan Africa and other places too in Asia. But look, I have to share this one personal experience. Maybe I'll get emotional. Maybe that's not good. When we were adopting in Ethiopia, this would have been 21 years ago, we went to an orphanage and they had babies that they considered too sick to be placed for adoption for if it was going to be a lengthy process. And so we said, okay, we'll take this little girl and we will do what we can. I started taking care of her, and I am telling you, she died in my arms of diarrhea and dehydration.
Yep, and
something
diarrhea
we don't
is
see
massive.
here. Yeah.
Yeah, diarrhea is a massive killer of children in other parts of the world.
Yeah, if you cannot get clean water, and by the time we started taking care of her, she was already on a downhill slope, and she literally died of diarrhea and dehydration in my arms.
Is there anything positive, Lois? Is there any reason to believe that this trend in cutting back funding is going to change? I mean, do you think people are looking at this and saying, hey, wait a minute, we need to get back on board?
Well, some philanthropists are stepping up. And, of course, Bill Gates has said that he's going to give away all of his billions, and he's putting a lot of it into things like this. But even with people who are stepping up, some of the smaller countries that are sort of in the middle are stepping up too. They haven't made up for what's been lost. So it's going to take some sort of concerted effort. And there's no one billionaire or trillionaire or whatever who can solve this problem. It's gonna have to be the will of something, some coalition, whether it's countries or individuals, to do this.
Yeah, I'm looking at the last line of your article, and you quote an associate professor, Brooke Nichols. She's a professor of global health at Boston University, who says this. She wants people to remember what these numbers represent. It's a human. It's a child. It could be your child. It could be my child.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Lois. That was interesting. You always have the latest on medical technology, what's going on with kids, what's going on with our health situation, and so thank you for joining us again this morning.
Thanks for the invite.
Thank you. We're going to have end this segment on a positive note, at least. We are not celebrating the news that we just talked about, but we are celebrating
our 6-month anniversary. It's nice that you remind me of these things, Holly, because I
this
hadn't
weird
thought
thing
about
with
them.
dates and numbers.
June 9th, we had our first show. Can you believe it's been 6 months, Lois?
No, I cannot believe that.
We're still the new inside sources, and I hear
and we
that,
still like each other,
and we still get along with each other. But yeah, 6 months.
Hey, there's still time.
Yeah, right,
No,
right.
for real.
It's been fun.
It has been really fun. And, one of the things that is fun for me is being able to talk to people like Lois. We've had all kinds of people come in and talk with us. And we've talked with Ambassador Jeff Flake a couple of times. I thought that was fun. We've talked with former Governor Gary Herbert. We've talked with Lieutenant Governor a bunch of times, bunch of legislators. But we've also had an opportunity to interact and talk with our texters and our listening audience, and that has been really fun.
Yeah, we have separate boards, and so I kind of run the music and a few things, and Holly's got the text, and so you weren't here the other day, and so I was like, did we get any texts?
Saying?
And they're not always good, but they're always interesting. We like your texts, good or bad. We don't expect everybody to say you guys are great, although it would be nice. It's uplifting when we get those happy texts.
No, but it's fun, and it's a fun way to have a conversation, right? And what's really interesting to me is a lot of times if we talk on something that's relatively that can be controversial, we'll get people on both sides, right? And they'll say, you guys are so dumb, and other people will say, you guys are so smart. And it's like, well, split in the middle.
I have never had a "you guys are so smart" message in my life. I want one.
We get a few of
I
those.
will text you myself. Lois, you are so smart.
Thanks.
And we're always working on content, so we're not shy about people that want to suggest things, whether it's local, national, like health related, politics related. Of course, I'm always into the latest legal issues and Supreme Court or criminal cases or whatnot. So yeah, I mean, we try to get as much as we can and get into a lot of different areas. And
anyway, happy 6-month workiversary.
Yeah, absolutely. When we come back after the break, the Salt Lake County District Attorney's Office wants to make its screening process more open to the public. The office unveiled what's called a screening dashboard to the public to use, and we'll learn more from our Salt Lake County DA, Sim Gill, after this.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. Our top story this hour, trust in the federal government is near an all-time low. Pew Research shows only 17% of Americans say they trust the government to do what's right either always or most of the time. Utah Foundation President Sean Teigen says the president in power impacts each political party's trust in government, but there's more to it than that.
No matter who's in power, you're seeing a lot of negativity about the federal government because of all of this much more polarized kind of news outlet kind of environment, I think, that we have now than we did in the 60s.
Nationwide, 26% of Republicans and only 9% of Democrats currently say they trust the government. Our top national story this hour, the holiday shopping season is in full swing, and the holiday return season will be hitting soon. But one thing to watch for is rising return fees.
For Marshalls and TJ Maxx, it's now $11.99 per package. So when you make that return, that amount is taken out of your total refund. Macy's charges $10. JCPenney, J.Crew have fees of about $8 to mail back packages.
ABC's Elizabeth Schulze reporting. The Utah Highway Patrol responded to a 9-car collision last night. It happened on northbound I-15 near 4900 South in Murray. The crash blocked the 3 lanes while the cleanup continued. Only minor injuries were reported. Your money at this moment right now, the Dow is up 103. That's about 0.2%. We're at 47,839. Coming up, clouds, but unusually warm. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:02. A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Utah Mammoth Hockey is back at Delta Center. Don't miss your chance to be part of the excitement as the Mammoth hit the ice all season long. Grab your friends, rally the family, and lock in your seats for the fast-paced, hard-hitting action. Great seats are available for most games, but they're selling fast. Head to UtahMammoth.com to get your tickets today. That's UtahMammoth.com. Your home for all things Mammoth hockey.
Hi, I'm Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell, America's largest family law firm. During this time of year, difficult relationships sometimes become impossible. If you or someone you care about is facing a family law issue, let us set up a 1-hour Cordell Consult. The Cordell Consult is a meeting with a local attorney who will give you clear guidance about your options, whether it's a separation, a postnuptial agreement, divorce, or custody. Take the first step. Visit CordellCordell.com. That's CordellCordell.com.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have leaf filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/radio to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
To get this special radio offer, go to leaffilter.com/radio for your free gutter inspection today and get up to 30% off. That's leaffilter.com/radio for up to 30% off. leaffilter.com/radio. See representative for warranty details.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. No, we're not one of the big guys. Truth is, we don't want to be. If you're over 50, Big Wireless probably has you paying for more data than you might need. You could be throwing away thousands over a lifetime.
Our entry-level data plans start at just $20 a month. And for a limited time, switch and get your second month free. Call 1-888-FREEDOM, visit consumercellular.com or a store near you and get your second month free today. Plans include $5 credit for auto-pay and e-billing. See site for additional details.
Progressive knows there are some surprisingly expensive things in life, like rugs. People say a rug would really bring the room together. And sure, you don't know what that means, but it sounds important. Suddenly you're using words like jute and sisal, then you see the price and lose it because how can the thing you walk and spill on cost so much? So you devote your life to taking down Big Rug. But then you remember that switching your home and auto to Progressive could save you hundreds. So, looks like Big Rug is safe. For now. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Visa Triple Rewards. And here's Jason Jones.
And Amanda, we are still seeing some slowing northbound I-15 in the Provo area. They have cleared that accident, but there's still some heavy leftover traffic down there. And that's what's causing the problems. It's right around Center Street is where you're going to find that. Maybe a little bit further south in Center Street as well. Once you get past that, you're clear all the way up to the end, all the way up to the point of the mountain. So that should be a pretty good drive after that. But before you get to there, you're going to be a little bit heavy and slow through that stretch at this point. Otherwise, everything else is looking pretty decent, except for, of course, coming out of Tooele. It's still really heavy on SR 36 between Mills Junction and Lake Point. I don't know if it's faster to go down 138 and then into Grantsville and up to I-80, but if you can do that and it is faster, I might recommend taking that trip or whatever, because otherwise it's just going to take you a while to get through SR 36 up to I-80 this morning. Christmas time is merry and bright at the shops at Riverwoods in Provo. Come see Santa, shop, dine, and see magical Christmas lights at the shops at Riverwoods in Provo. I'm Jason Jones in the KSL Traffic Center.
We should see a high of 52 degrees today in Salt Lake City, which is 10 degrees above normal. And tomorrow we'll get up to 57. There are 0 storms predicted in the 7-day forecast. Right now it's 46 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
I am neither Greg Skordas nor Holly Richardson. I am KSL News Radio reporter Dave Cawley.
And Holly had a commitment she had to go to with the Deseret News. They had a meeting set up today, and so I was like, get me some help.
I was waiting at the door, like shoehorn my way into the
There you
studio
go.
because I wanted to talk to you, Greg. I'm very interested in your take on this. So you may know I am weirdly obsessed with the Susan Powell case.
Right.
That happened in 2009. So it's been 16 years since Susan Powell disappeared from her home in West Valley City. And today, December 9th, lines up with the day that Josh Powell, her husband, turned up. He was a suspect in this investigation. He had been interrogated by police, and then he disappeared for 18 hours in a rental car, and nobody knows where he was. And it got me thinking about that case because when we were reporting that story for the Cold Podcast, which most listeners probably know me from, there was a lot of, I would say, frustration on the part of the public about, why did police not arrest Josh? Why was he not charged with Susan's presumed murder at that point in time? And, given your experience, I'm sure you have a very different take than, most people in the public.
Right. Having prosecuted, you realize what you need. You have to cross certain barriers and get to a certain level before you can file charges and take someone into custody.
It's a pretty high bar,
Right.
Right? You have to have all these legal things, probable cause, and the evidence, the proof. I know from my reporting, Greg, that there were conversations taking place between the Salt Lake County District Attorney, the West Valley City Police Department, what we would probably call screening.
Right.
So what is that process?
Yeah, let's talk about that. And to help us, we've got Sim Gill with us this morning. Sim, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, Greg and Dave. I'm happy to be here.
So, Sim, as you know, I worked at the district attorneys for a while, and I did screening. And at the time, what we did, and I know your office has changed a little bit. I think you have sort of more of a dedicated screening staff. We would each take turns. You were screening for a week, and what you would do is you would meet with law enforcement, you'd meet with investigators, and decide whether or not and what to charge with certain cases, and then you sort of ran with those. I know your office has done things differently since then, I think in a very good way. I think you've moved it forward very well. But tell us about this this live screening data website.
Yeah, well, I think, you guys are identifying that when you think about prosecutor functions, we have sort of an idea that, we get from watching TV or something, but there's a lot that goes into it. So this dashboard that we're introducing is really the first phase of like about 3 or 4 phases. And the first phase is really about how these cases come into our system, who's bringing those cases, what are the nature of the types of cases that are being brought in, what is the filing rates with those cases, and that starts to introduce to the community, which I think has an interest in this, what this data looks like from their communities. Then the second and third phases will be how that case is filed and then moves into a courtroom, which courtrooms it ends up under, what kind of caseloads are for those judges, and the workload for prosecutors, and then ultimately leading to outcomes. So what we're really trying to do is to create a data continuum that any citizen can look at, and then they can see how in the criminal justice system this case, that this issue or this idea of public safety is moving through the system. So it's about really putting the average person in the front seat, and then they can navigate and play around with it and see how these criminal justice cases move through the system.
So, Sim, with some cases, especially at the screening level, law enforcement typically likes to keep things a little bit more close to the vest. And so I know sometimes information can't be made available.
Yeah.
What decisions do you make in terms of what is available?
Sure. Well, so first of all, we're looking at the raw data. One of the things that we do is we capture, we also put on there a screening diagram so people can, that's one of those tabs, you can look at how different movements of the case occurs. But when you look at the beginning of it, you look at screening flow, you look at all the agencies and all the things that we do it. So with it. So, for example, in the last 24 months, there were about 82,000 events that were related to the cases that were submitted to us. And then we break it down by first degree, second degree felonies, etc. And then you can go in there, play around and say how many, what was received, what was filed, and the events that were related to that. And then you can look at screening outcomes. We had roughly 40,000 cases that came to us in the last 24 months, and we filed on almost 30,000 of them. And then it's also broken down by almost over 20 law enforcement agencies, and you can actually click on one of those law enforcement agencies, and it will tell you that there were we looked at almost 12,000 cases from them, and we filed on almost 9,000 of them from, like, for example, Salt Lake City agency. Then you can also look them by the different degrees of charges. So it really starts to give the average citizen a sense of what their law enforcement agency is doing, how our office is interacting with that, so we can give that raw data. Of course, we can't go into details in the other stuff that you were talking. I mean, take, for example, the Susan Powell conversation that you were having earlier. At that time, there was individuals who interacted with law enforcement. We now actually have a screening unit, and we have a homicide unit. So now one of the processes we changed was that the homicide unit actually sits down as a team and screens those cases. But you can look in our data dashboard, and you can go down to homicide cases, and when you click over that, it will tell you that we had 103 homicides over the year collectively, and 40 of them came from Salt Lake City. So we can start to get granularly into the details of that data.
That's really interesting, Sim, and I appreciate you calling back to the Susan Powell conversation. Obviously, when that was all taking place, as we know, the case was under seal. The courts had said to your office, to the police, you cannot talk about this for reasons that make sense when it's an ongoing investigation. What really strikes me as fascinating about this dashboard, though, is, for those of us in the media who follow criminal cases, oftentimes we are mostly interested when the process breaks down, when there's maybe a failure along the way. And one of the things that I've heard a lot as a news reporter working in Utah for many years is, it feels like I don't understand what these public servants are doing, how they're spending their time. And this seems to be a way for you to say, here is our workload. You can actually see the number of cases flowing in, flowing out, and how they turn out.
Yeah, I mean, look, data drives policy. Data drives dollars, right? And so every citizen out there has a right to know how their resources are being used. And, we're a large institution. People forget that, for example, the Salt Lake County District Attorney's Office, here's an interesting fact. There are 2,347 prosecutor offices in the country. And interestingly, only 51 that serve a jurisdiction of 1 million people or more. And Salt Lake County is number 40. And we wouldn't think that we were in the top 50 in the size. And so what are we doing? What are our daily functions tied to? And I think every citizen should have access to their public institution. And there are things we can do better. There's things when we look at this data like this, we can say, so for example, when I look at Salt Lake City, I'm looking at the screen right now, 32% of their screening cases were related to drugs, and 17% were related to assaultive behavior. And so we can start saying, okay, for this agency and their community, their number one issue really is drug-related. So what are we doing to support this agency with their enforcement actions? And when you go down to, to Harriman or Cottonwood Heights, their profile is going to be something different. And so this really helps us to be responsive to each agency. And then if you're a citizen there, you can look and say, hey, how is my law enforcement agency responding to this crime, and what kind of crimes are we responding to? So information is really good for all of us to make good policy decisions.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sim. That was Salt Lake County District Attorney Sim Gill. And I'll tell you this, Dave, best job I ever had in my life. My 8 years at the Salt Lake County DA's office.
There you go.
Really, it was a job I'll never forget. And they do a great job there. And speaking of the homicide unit that Sim just mentioned, I have a document here from the homicide unit charging a man with murder, sex offenses, all for this story that we'll get into, his bad day that started with a fight with a friend and his wife and ended up with driving the wrong way on the freeway. This is just a mess. We'll talk about it after the break.
Hi, this is Doug Wright. The other night with my wife, Dee, we saw Frozen at Hale Center Theater, and it was delightful. I have a little confession. You know the song, Let It Go? My little granddaughters sing that so much that I'm afraid I haven't fully appreciated it until I saw it performed at Hale Center Theater. The artistry of the presentation and the staging brought that song to life for me. I have become a true believer. And the puppetry at Hale Center Theater, when they bring Sven out and when they have Olaf, you are going to love it. And don't forget, they have special presentations of Frozen where you can bring the younger kids. We've already got that booked for our family. It's Frozen on the stage right now at Hale Center Theater. And of course, you've got to make sure you get your tickets for A Christmas Carol. It always sells out. And by the way, Frozen is selling out very, very fast. Go to hct.org and lock down those tickets. Get season tickets for the holidays and so much more. hct.org.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-292-4541 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-292-4541. That's 800-292-4541. What do you have to lose? Call 800-292-4541. Again, 800-292-4541.
In today's digital world, outdated technology can slow you down. You need a partner who keeps you ahead of the curve. At Les Olson IT, we help your business thrive with top-tier office technology, from copiers and IT hardware to advanced IT services and security solutions. With Les Olson IT, you get more than just products. You get solutions, service, and a team that cares. Les Olson IT, empowering businesses with the tools for success.
Les Olson IT.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
This holiday season, step back in time to an era of true elegance. Titanic. The exhibition is now open at the Shops at Southtown in Sandy. Walk the grand staircase. See the artifacts. Feel the stories. It's the perfect outing for the family or a thoughtful gift for someone special. Now open through April 2026. Purchase tickets and ticket gift vouchers today at thetitanicexhibition.com. Titanic, the exhibition. Don't miss the boat.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
We're learning today that a Harriman man accused of hitting and killing a young couple in a wrong-way crash on Thanksgiving weekend now is facing additional charges. This crime is just really a mess. Let's turn to KSL TV's Debbie Worthen for more details on the charges.
This actually started at a hotel downtown.
Salt Lake District Attorney Sim Gill says the crash that killed 2 teens over the Thanksgiving weekend happened after 21-year-old Jose Jimenez is accused of sexually abusing, then running over a separate teen at the Doubletree Hotel. Charging documents say officers were responding to a hit and run at the hotel where they were told a 17-year-old girl had been run over on the top floor of the parking garage, where they observed a large amount of blood on the left side of her face and neck. Gill says Jimenez now faces 2 counts of murder for that wrong-way crash, 1 count of aggravated assault for allegedly running over that 17-year-old girl, 1 felony sex abuse charge for an alleged attack against that same girl, along with a slew of other charges, including DUI. It was while Jimenez was believed to be driving drunk that Gill says he crashed into Annika Wilson and Leo Ray Shepard, causing their Rogue to go up in flames. Gill says Jimenez then traveled another 660 feet before coming to a rest without braking.
What you have is basically one long criminal episode with 2 different crime scenes.
That's interesting. He mentions that criminal episode because what we do, Dave, when we charge somebody with a crime, we charge by what we call a criminal episode. So, for example, if I steal something from KSL today when I leave the building,
do that, by the way.
Right, which would be really bad. And then, an hour from now, I'm driving home and I'm drunk, which of course I don't drink, but I mean I wouldn't drive drunk. So you know what I mean?
Yes.
So
those would
be two different incidents charged by 2 different prosecutors in 2 different jurisdictions. Sim mentions that he thinks this is all part of a single criminal episode. I guess I agree. I mean he's the person that charged it, but it started at a Doubletree Hotel, and police are called. They go out there for what they think is a hit and run. But it even started before that. So there's sort of 3 crime scenes, if you think about it. Mm-hmm. One happens in the hotel room. This guy's asleep. His friend and his friend's girlfriend are there, and he starts allegedly, and he's presumed innocent, groping the girl. She's a teenager. Mm-hmm. So that gets you count 3, forcible sexual abuse. Then he's confronted by her boyfriend and told, knock it off, what are you doing? He leaves. They go out to the parking lot. And then he runs over the girlfriend, the same person that he just sexually assaulted.
Okay.
That's crime scene number 2.
Right.
And that gets us our aggravated assaults resulting in loss of consciousness and aggravated assault because he hit the girl, knocked her out, hit her boyfriend, got him hurt. And so there's 2 counts of aggravated assault. And then he gets on the freeway on 6 South. And he's going the wrong way in his car, and the GPS or whatever it is, they have these magic devices on your cars that tell you what you were doing. It's not GPS. But anyway, they looked into this car, and they said that at the time of the accident, he's on the wrong way on the freeway, about 6 South. He's going 120 miles an hour.
Oof.
Now, and he hits a car head on, and both people in the car are killed. So now he's charged with murder. Now, usually you think of and he's, by the way, he's DUI also. He's got alcohol in his system. Not high, but it's about 2.5 times the legal limit.
I mean, that's pretty high.
That's pretty high, yeah. Well, our legal limit's really low.
Sure, that's true.
But it is bad. You shouldn't, 0.05 is, and by the way, that's a good number to have such a low number. But instead of being charged with automobile homicide, what some people would call vehicular manslaughter, which is a serious crime, they charge him with murder. I mean, they charge him with murder, which I think is a stretch a little bit.
Well, so explain that to me, though, Greg, because what is the difference? I mean, when I hear murder, I'm thinking intent, like somebody intended to kill another person. Is that the difference here? Or?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
You nailed it right on the head. So typically we think of murder as being an intentional act, and manslaughter or vehicular homicide as being a reckless act. Then you have negligent homicide as well. We call it mens rea. What's the mindset of the person at the time they commit the crime? If it's intentional, that's murder. That's a really serious crime. That's 5 to life. If it's reckless, that's 1 to 15. Manslaughter, whatever you want to call it. And then it goes down the chart from there to negligent homicide, which is a misdemeanor. But they charge him with murder, and there's a really weird tweak in Utah law. Murder says if you knowingly and intentionally cause the death of a person, that's murder.
Okay.
That's great. But then we say this, if you're acting under circumstances evidencing a depraved indifference to human life, you cause the death of a person. So it's depraved indifference is worse than reckless. I mean, you're really, you know what I mean? It's
So is that defined in the law, this phrase, though, of depraved indifference? Like, how is it up to the judge to determine that, or how does that work?
Well, if it goes to trial, it'd be up to the jury.
Yeah, right.
It's there's so many phrases. I think you mentioned earlier probable cause.
Yeah, right.
I mean, so you think, what does that mean? Well, we don't get to tell you. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, probable cause means whatever you think it means. When we tell a jury you have to find somebody guilty by proof beyond a reasonable doubt, what does that mean? Well, means proof beyond a reasonable doubt. You know what I mean? Like, we try to define it, but depraved indifference it's very rare. I mean, I can tell you this, Dave, in 43 years that I've been an attorney, both as a prosecutor and defense attorney, I don't recall very many depraved indifference cases because the manslaughter sort of covers that really awful, mindset. But in this case, I think what they're looking at is wrong way on the freeway, drunk, 2.5 times the legal limit, trying to get away from something or someone, and 120 miles an hour. I mean, that comes pretty close to, I'm going to kill somebody.
Right.
You know what I mean? That comes pretty close to.
If I'm reading between the lines here, the idea being that anybody that's driving the wrong way on the interstate going 120 miles an hour in their mind should recognize that that's an action that is likely to lead to the death of another person.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And especially if they're intoxicated at the same time. Right. So you've got 3 things, any one of which could get you to maybe a vehicular manslaughter. But when they have the combination, it gets pretty close to this, you really cross the bridge here between reckless and intentional.
What stood out to me about this whole thing, though, Greg, was like, we hear about wrong-way drivers, right? We talk about them. Our traffic reports talk about this from time to time. It's a problem that we know is happening on Utah highways. And this is the first time that I can remember, at least in recent memory, where we've had this like deep dive into what led to this person ending up on the highway the wrong way. And it's not as simple as, well, they had a little too much to drink and they made a mistake. Like, this is a very interesting case. And I imagine that, a defense attorney here, as you kind of point out, like, they might have some argument to make about this is a case maybe overcharged. And yet at the same time, like, 2 people lost their lives. 2 young people lost their lives. Like, that's a really difficult balance.
I know. And I think taking this in front of a jury, that's a great point. You can say, hey, this isn't murder, but they're going to say he killed 2 people.
Yeah, look,
120 miles an hour. He's drunk,
right,
and he's upset, and he's on the wrong side of the road. He actually, when police interviewed him, said, "I'm going on the right side of the road, and I'm at 4100 South." And they said, "No, you're on the wrong side of the road, and you're 600 South." So, I mean, I don't mean to downplay blood alcohol content, but I think they said he was like at a 0.135, which
0.13.
Yes. So, I mean, 2.5 times the limit, almost 3 times the limit. You'd be out there, but not knowing what. I would say this: if he's in an accident, 120 miles an hour, hits a car, and 2 people are killed, he might have got his bell rung too. That you would expect that he probably had some level of injury as well.
Concussive trauma or something.
Who knows? But, I mean, his own words hurt him. Anyway, just a wild case, and it was interesting because we had Sim Gill for the Hill for the prior session.
Well, thank you for explaining all that. That makes a lot more sense, Greg.
Hope it does. Well, Here's the stuff of nightmares, and I need your help with this. Getting stuck in quicksand while on a hike. This happened at Arches National Park over the weekend. We'll speak with the incident commander on scene about what happened and about what to know about quicksand. I imagine you've at least
had some experience there. Yeah, not like this guy, but
right.
Yeah.
We'll be right back.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. Our top story this hour, Utah lawmakers are set to meet in a special session tonight. They're expected to address the court's role in Utah's redistricting process after a judge ruled against lawmakers in the case of Utah's new congressional map. Committee meetings will begin at noon and run all the way to the start of the session at 6 o'clock tonight. The full legislature is also expected to repeal a bill that bans collective bargaining for public workers. Our top national story this hour, accused United Healthcare CEO killer Luigi Mangione is back in court today with his defense team trying to have every piece of evidence against him thrown out. Here is ABC's chief investigative correspondent Aaron Katersky.
On the witness stand, Officer Christy Wasser testified she picked up his backpack and felt the weight. It was heavy. Her body camera captured the moment she pulled out a pair of wet gray underwear. Rolled up inside, a loaded magazine. Wasser said the search was for safety. We're just making sure there's no bomb. But a defense attorney accused her of trying to justify an illegal search. Do you clear the McDonald's? Do you ask anybody to leave the area? The officer testified she did not.
Today's hearing will be the fifth day of testimony. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 38 points now. That's a little less than 0.1%. We're at 47,775. Coming up, extra warm this week. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:32.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Think of a time when life knocked the wind out of you, turned you completely upside down. Now, imagine if no one showed up. That's the reality for too many in Utah. Every day, people battle mental health challenges, addiction, and homelessness, often in silence, often feeling invisible. At Volunteers of America Utah, we show up with recovery support, counseling, youth programs, shelter, and people who simply refuse to give up on others. A safe bed, a warm meal, a conversation that says you belong. And right now, your gift is matched, helping twice as many people find hope and stability. Because when you help someone feel human again, you transform the whole community. Be the reason someone finds hope today. Visit voaut.org.
Just how good is Pure Talk's current deal for unlimited wireless? Well, you might say it's the deal of your lifetime. Because right now, for just $29.95 a month, Pure Talk is offering unlimited talk, text, and data for life. Not your phone's life, your life. This is Pure Talk's top-tier plan. It comes with a crazy fast 5G network along with a 30-gig hotspot. And at just $29.95 a month, there has never been a better opportunity to lock in a ridiculously low rate for as long as you live. And save thousands and thousands of dollars along the way. This plan is normally $65 a month, but if you switch today, you will save over 50% every single month for the rest of your life. See what I mean? It really is the deal of your lifetime. Dial pound 250, say micro, offer ends 1214, some restrictions, puretalk.com.
You probably know if you need new windows. You hear the wind whistling. There's condensation between the panes. Maybe your heating bill's too high, but you don't want to pull the trigger because it costs a lot of money. I understand. And they understand at Advanced Window Products. After all, they've been creating custom state-of-the-art windows right here in Salt Lake for 39 years. They know what's up. That's why they offer 60-month 0% financing or buy now, pay later. You get the windows this winter for 30 to 40% less because you're buying straight from the factory. They'll build, they'll install your windows, and you don't have to pay for a year or more. At Advanced, they're committed to making your new windows affordable. And if you call now, they'll knock another $2,500 off your quote. State-of-the-art, energy-saving windows built here for Utah's changing climate. And right now, $2,500 off. Call for a quote 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100 or go to advancedwindows.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Visa Triple Rewards. And here's Jason Jones.
And Amanda, we got trouble again down in Provo area. In fact, we had that earlier accident. It was just past the Center Street exit. Now we have an accident that's just before the Center Street exit. It had 3 left lanes blocked, including the HOV lane. Now we're just down to the HOV lane blocked and the left shoulder as well. However, delays are all the way past University Avenue at this point, and getting worse as we just kind of go along. Fortunately, there are fewer cars on the road now than there were when we had that earlier accident a couple hours ago, but definitely going to take you extra time to get through there at this point. After that, I-15 is clear all the way into downtown Salt Lake City. If you are coming out of Tooele, you're still going to be a little bit slow through that construction zone on SR 36. It doesn't quite go back to Mills Junction anymore, but still actually very heavy, or I guess you should say very slow as you head over towards Lake Point. I'm Jason Jones in the KSL Traffic Center.
We're going to see temperatures well above normal all week long. Salt Lake today will have a high of 52, 57 on Wednesday. Right now, it's 46 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
How lucky am I today that I've got Dave Colley with me, because I'm talking about something that we don't talk about, and that's quicksand. And because I'll tell you this, I sometimes I've thought maybe it's a not true, that it's one of those urban myths or something.
I mean, we've had it so pumped up in the movies. I'm thinking The Princess Bride, there's that scene where they get like sucked all the way under and then haul themselves out on a rope, right?
Right.
And that's not what quicksand is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad to be here. This is a super interesting story.
Yeah,
Greg.
so we have a story about a man in Arches on a solo trek, which is something
I've done.
Apparently
yes.
do,
Mm-hmm.
and he gets stuck in quicksand. Are you familiar with the area where this would have been?
So in this story first kind of popped up on Reddit is where I first saw it, and then it's been in the news the last 12, 24 hours. If you're familiar with Arches National Park and you're driving, let's say, from Salt Lake to Arches, you'll be going down Highway 191, and on your left, on the east side, there's a new state park called Utah Raptor State Park.
Mm-hmm.
There's a dry wash. It's dry at that point when the weather's good, called Courthouse Wash. And it flows all the way down through Arches National Park and meets the Colorado River just above Moab. And so this hiker, he was going down Courthouse Wash. If you've ever read Edward Abbey,
yes,
there's in his book Desert Solitaire, there's a part where he talks about the old road that was the entry into Arches National Park. That was called the Willow Springs Road today. And you cross this wash on that road, and if there's any water in there, it's notorious, do not drive across it because you will sink.
Right.
And this hiker was a little downstream from there where he got stuck.
Wow. Well, let's get our incident commander who was there, John Marshall. He was the incident commander at the Rescue Sunday in Arches. John, how did my co-host do?
Yeah, his description was pretty much spot on. So, yeah, it's an interesting area, and it's an interesting phenomenon, one that we don't deal with a lot from a search and rescue perspective. However, oddly enough, we were having a conversation just a few days ago about an incident that happened very similar to this back in 2014, where a woman was actually trapped in the same wash in quicksand. And she was there for, I believe it was a little over 13 hours. She was actually stuck. And so it's not our first ordeal with that wash and quicksand, but this was certainly the most recent.
Yeah, we don't think, John, of there being quicksand. So tell us, we see it in the movies and whatnot, but what happens, and what was your experience, at least with these two incidents, the one you talked about before and the one most recently?
Well, as you had said, you had referenced the Princess Bride. When I think of quicksand, my mind instantly goes back to old Gilligan's Island. They had a couple episodes there with the quicksand on it, but it's not as depicted in the movies, as you said. It's a non-Newtonian phenomena that happens. If you picture you have sand and there is water flowing through the sand subterraneanly, it's happy in that state. But as soon as a vibration, like a footprint, comes and it kind of shock loads that water that's in there. It causes the sand to somewhat kind of fluff up and become much less dense. Then, therefore, you then sink into it, and that water gets pushed away, and now your foot, your leg, or whatever part of your body is in that sand. It's kind of cemented in place. And so it happens very quickly, and once again, the more you struggle and the more you keep disturbing that water and shock loading it, it will then continue to allow you to sink and sink. But unlike in the movies, you don't go in over your head because the human body has a certain level of buoyancy to it. But that's not really the danger of drowning in this case. It's just being frozen into that one position for an extended period of time. And on this one, the caveat was that water was ice cold. I remember after it, we were hosing off some of our gear, and my hands got wet with the garden hose, just hosing off some of the mud from our supplies. And I was like, dang, my hands are freezing. And I wasn't the one that was stuck in it for hours at a time.
Yeah, John, in that wash, I know oftentimes, especially this time of year, the canyon walls throw shadows. And so even if it's sunny out, you might be in a situation where you don't have direct sunlight on you. You're wet. You're stuck in place. So your body's not generating heat, right, from the movement. And like the risk of hypothermia there, really, really, really high. What stood out to me about this was a really good example of a solo hiker doing smart things. From the story he left, people were expecting him back by a certain time. He had an emergency device, which is, I believe, how he was even able to contact your office, right?
That is correct. And a lot of people don't realize, of course, with the new iPhones, you have satellite messaging that will work in a 911 type of situation where you have no other cell phone connection. It will link through satellite, so you can use it to get yourself out of a pickle. So he had an inReach with him, which he was able to send the text messages out that facilitated him getting the help he needed. And as you had said, he was down in kind of a narrow piece of the canyon with no sunlight whatsoever. I'm running the operation from our operations center, and the ground team was sending me back the aerial footage from the drone that they first used to locate him. And yeah, he was in kind of a dark hole where he was, and absolutely sunlight was not his friend.
I'm glad you mentioned the drone. I thought that was a really interesting and kind of overlooked part of this story, which was your agency using tools to locate somebody without having to flood, a bunch of your crew into an environment where they could also potentially get stuck. Like, that was a really smart use of technology.
Well, we try to keep our finger on the pulse of technology and make sure that we have all the tools that we need to facilitate the wide variety of rescues that we do here in Grant County. Everything from the Colorado River, we have the La Salle Mountains, snow peaks, and avalanche danger up there. We have the hikers, the trekkers, the splunkers, the base jumpers, the mountain bikers, the off-roaders. Everyone brings a little different flavor to the rescue community, and we have to be on our A game all the time because of the diversity of what we do. Now, in this case, this drone got suggested by our drone operators as, hey, I can put that in the air and make sure we can know exactly where he's at. That was a great call. I had other people suggesting, hey, why don't we bring a ladder? Why don't we bring this? Why don't we bring that? So pooling with the resources and the experiences from each and every one of the members, we're able to quickly put together a team that's going to get the job done. Oddly enough, at the same time this was happening, we were also doing a rope rescue training with several search and rescues from different parts of the state that had come down to Grant County to help us with putting on a high-angle rope rescue training. And so we had 22 people out in the field that weren't very far from there. So if we needed the resources, boom, it was a phone call away, and we could have had another 22 people there almost instantly. But with the small crew that we had, it was exactly what we needed to get the job done.
So talk to us about the job done, John. We've got about a minute left. What was the extrication like? How did you get him out?
It was pretty straightforward. Brought a 10-foot long ladder so we could lay that on the sand and use it to walk out onto him. Traction boards like you use for off-road vehicles, we threw some of those down, so we had platforms to stand on next to him and started digging, and we could, at that point, had the ability to dig faster than the water could re-infiltrate the hole. And one of our members, I believe it was Natalia, she reached down, grabbed him by the ankle, and just yanked, and his foot was able to come up with a team approach, shovels and pulling simultaneously, got him free. Of course, as soon as he came out, he had no feeling in his leg. It had been ice cold for far too long. EMTs were able to apply some heat packs, get some circulation going back into his leg, and then in a moment of just, I'm going to do this, he walked himself out. He says, nope, I'm good. I'm going to walk out. And he grabbed and darned his own pack and walked on out.
John, I know that pride of being the person who's in trouble and saying, I'm going to carry out I'm going to walk out myself, even if I had to call for rescue. Nobody wants to be that person. But I'm thinking, for somebody who's listening to this now, it's a great story about a rescue that went right. But for somebody who's coming to visit Grand County, I mean, statistically, Grand County has more search and rescues than I think any other county in Utah. And if somebody encounters this kind of problem, like, how do they identify quicksand and what do they do to avoid it?
Quicksand, as you're walking on a sandy area, you'll feel a spongy nature to that, and that is that hydraulic action with each of your footprints. If you feel a little bit of a bounce under your foot, you're getting into the danger zone. It usually doesn't just, one step is fine and the next step is soft. You're going to have a progression. It starts to get a little spongy before you get into that danger zone where you're hitting that non-Newtonian liquid fractioning that happens. And so, you do have some telltale warnings, but, the bottom line is just be careful. Be mindful of where you're at. Be mindful of your surroundings. And yes, all of our rescues don't always have the happiest end of endings, but as you had said, that was our 143rd rescue of the year. So, yes, it's been quite a busy year for us.
Wow. Keep up the good work, John. That was John Marshall, Incident Commander for the rescue this weekend at Arches.
We had a comment coming in from the text board, Greg, and this is somebody recognizing that the quicksand in the Never-Ending Story, that film, if you've ever seen the Never-Ending Story, that's like the most awful part of that movie is losing a horse into the quicksand there. So that's where people of my generation probably have the best.
My recollection from the movies of quicksand is from Blazing Saddles.
Oh, yeah. Another classic.
That was another one. Anyway, speaking of movies, and speaking about just bizarre things going on in southern Utah, officials in southern Utah are asking for help finding a stolen human skull.
What?
We'll talk about that.
I don't get why someone thought it was okay to go into an ancient site and do the same thing. It saddens me that people are willing to do this sort of thing.
Me too. We'll talk about that right after this.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Do you want to walk, play pickleball, and enjoy other fun activities to stay healthy, but you can't because of bad feet? Hi, this is Mike, and the Good Feet store wants to help.
I just had difficulty walking. I tried them on in the store, and my foot felt so much better.
Do you keep buying new shoes and inserts with little or no relief?
I tried all kinds of shoes. It was the arch supports that made the difference from the Good Feet store.
Don't let bad feet, knees, or back problems get in the way of staying healthy and having fun.
Thanks to the Good Feet store, I'm bowling 3 nights a week.
Get back to doing what you love. At the Good Feet store, we'll personally fit you at high-quality arch supports to maximize your comfort. Stop in the Good Feet store or book your free fitting at goodfeet.com. We have locations in Farmington, Riverton, and Sandy.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
This is the story of the one. As the purchasing manager at a manufacturing plant, she knows the only thing more important than having the right safety gear is having it there when you need it. That's why she partners with Grainger for auto reordering, so her team members can count on her to have cut-resistant gloves on hand, and each shift can run safely and efficiently. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Ulta Beauty's big holiday beauty sale is back with up to 50% off must-have gifts. Shop irresistible deals like the Shark Beauty Flex Style and Benefit Cosmetics travel-size mascaras. With new offers weekly, same-day pickup or delivery, and our trusted associates, we make holiday shopping effortless. Head into Ulta Beauty today. Ulta Beauty. Gifting happens here.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car to
Ready to get rid of that old car? Donate it to Cars for Kids. Call 1-877-CARS-FOR-KIDS to reach a friendly live agent. Donation's super easy, and your car can be picked up as soon as tomorrow. Call us now, 1-877-CARS-FOR-KIDS. That's Cars with a K to donate your car today.
1-877-CARS-FOR-KIDS. K-A-R-S, Cars for Kids. 1-877-CARS-FOR-KIDS. Donate your car today.
Hurry! It's your last chance to donate for 2025. Last chance! Donate now for a 2025 tax deduction.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
Inside Sources.
So we go quicksand. Now we're going to lost human skulls.
You're hitting all my
Holly,
interests today,
I get you here like you died and went to heaven, and I'm going, what are we doing here? But it sounds like something out of a movie. But officials in southern Utah are asking for help finding a stolen human skull. Here's KSL News Radio's Andy Cupp with details.
Ancient body parts stolen from an ancient burial site. The theft discovered thanks to a post on social media. The Utah School and Institutional Trust Lands Administration now offering a $3,000 reward for information.
A local concerned citizen noticed a Facebook post, actually, of an individual posing with some human remains.
Joel Boomgarden is the lead archaeologist for the trust.
In the Facebook page, you could see kind of the background, and some folks familiar with the area go, oh, hey, I recognize that site. Let's go in and double check. We went in and kind of compared that Facebook photo to the actual site. It's like, this is definitely it.
Officials aren't releasing exact detail locations at this time for fear of further damage, only saying it was near Kanab. Andy Cupp, KSL News Radio.
Don't post your criminal activity on Facebook.
It's generally good advice from a lawyer.
Right.
What stood out to me about this story, though, Greg, is, okay, I'm weird. In my job, I work largely cold case investigation. Right. I have worked with law enforcement in going out and looking for human remains, clandestine graves, and cases that are very old, decades old. But in a situation like this, where somebody is posing for photos with, let's be like perfectly clear, this is a human being's remains.
Yeah.
That's not respectful. It's not responsible. And I really wanted to talk to Chris Merritt. He's with Utah State Historic Preservation Office, just to kind of get a sense of, like, to people that hear this story, that hear about this, like, I have an emotional reaction to it, which is anger and frustration, and I'm wondering kind of what the law is or what the rules are when it comes to, this kind of thing. So, Chris, thanks for joining us.
No, thank you guys for having me on this morning.
Was your reaction similar to mine when you hear about this story? Just an immediate rush of like deep gut outrage?
Absolutely, but unfortunately, it's tempered with "here we go again." This is sadly not an uncommon experience in Utah, and it's been going on for decades now of desecration of burial sites throughout the state. And going back to what you said earlier on, I'm actually happy that people aren't very bright and post things on social media so we can find them and prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law.
Chris, I think a lot of people come to Utah, and some of us live here and enjoy the fact that there are these sites out there, and that the Preservation Office has allowed some of them to remain. But that's got to be a tough thing for you all to say, okay, what should we leave? And let people sort of walk by it. I know in Capitol Reef, you could walk up to the walls with the petroglyphs and whatnot on it. And you can get very close, but don't touch. But in something like this, I don't know how you either have to move the site or block it off or something. I mean, that's got to be a tough call for you all.
Yeah, it is. And when you look at Utah history, just in a thumbnail sketch, we have 13,000 years of constant human activity in the state. And our records hold about 120,000 known archaeological sites spread across all 29 counties. And then you couple that with over 60% of Utah is some form of public land, whether that's federal land or state land. And so that does create a very large, concerning body of sites that are sensitive to visitation. They're sensitive for human remains and those who came before us. And so, yeah, managing that is very tricky. And, the best we try to do is educate visitors to not desecrate and destroy sites that are of someone else's history and all part of our constant Utah history. So education is a big thing. When you find these sites, notify appropriate law enforcement if it is a human burial. They know how to route it, whether it's archaeological or modern. And that's where we say that's the first call, because there is state laws protecting human remains on state and private land. And just make a call. And if you find a cool archaeological site while you're out hiking and it's not marked, contact the land manager, let them know, because only about 9% of Utah has ever even been inventoried for archaeological resources, which means that 100,000 number is minuscule in compared to the total history we have in Utah that's not even yet fully been discovered.
Wow. Chris, one of the things I was curious about when I heard about this story was the approach from, law enforcement in saying, we're aware this thing happened, we need the public's help, but also we don't want to give away locational information. And kind of this philosophy of security through obscurity we know that some of these sites are out there, but we don't want to put, a big bullseye and draw more visitation to a site that's been disturbed like this in a really horrible way. Can you share a little bit more about kind of just that mindset and why that's an important approach in a story like this?
Oh, yeah, it's fundamental. And we all see stories of like, hey, somebody found this monolith during the COVID era, and how many thousands of people appeared out of the woodwork and entered a very sensitive, environmental context. So you can only imagine if we highlight an area of this, is that there are the curious people that want to go visit, even if they would be respectful. Suddenly now 10, 15 people go visit, now there's a trail to that location. And then that trail is found by the next people. And then somebody else posts about it on Facebook. And so it becomes a very quick proliferation of access. And so, law enforcement has a ton of information already from the Facebook posts, from evidence on the ground. And so the exact location of this burial is not as significant as this general location outside Kanab, because they have a lot of general specific. So now they're looking for the person that was willing to post this information. In our office, the legislature last year gave us a mandate to create a statewide anti-vandalism campaign, and we spent a full day training the state's law enforcement officers on protecting cultural resources and dead human remains. And so these officers are now better trained on how to handle these cases, because they aren't modern murder cases, but they are sensitive. And like you said, these are people. And it's still shocking to me that someone would think about the equivalent of walking into a city cemetery and seeing some bones exposed by a rodent and I'm just going to take these and take photos with them and walk home with them. It's the same concept for these burial sites. And so out of the abundance of caution, we are very careful on not disclosing locations unless that site really is hardened for visitation or the location is really central to the investigation.
Chris, without going into the location at all, is there anything you can disclose about the site that what would have been found there, or is that something that's confidential at this point?
At this point, it is. I mean, obviously, Kanab, southern Utah is unique in that 1,000 years ago there was large Native American villages focused on farming, and so all of these benches, all of these creek areas have evidence of past human activity. And all of these folks that lived and died 1,000 years ago are directly related to modern Native American people in the area still today. And so, the location could contain just the human remains, but it also could be evidence of an entire village. And so that's why we're very careful not disclosing more information, because then somebody wants to go out and find pottery or wants to go find projectile points and arrowheads. And so again, that abundance of caution, we're keeping the information very carefully and focused on this investigation.
Thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciate that insight. And, Greg, as we were talking, I was thinking about some of my own experiences hiking in southern Utah. And I've been lucky enough to stumble upon sites that are not, named, they're not inventoried. And there is a feeling when you are in those locations of being connected to a past that's not mine. And it's very special. And I think we all bear a responsibility to be careful about, how we're stewarding those sites. And this is just an example of it not going right.
Right, and doing something that you have to wonder what this person was thinking, and hopefully that will be restored and we can get that site taken care of again. Well, it looks like the United States Supreme Court is likely to roll back 90 years of legal precedent and expand the president's powers once again. We'll get the latest from SCOTUS blog after the break.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott. KSL's top story this hour. A child under 5 is the latest to get measles in Utah County. Utah County Health Department's Aislinn Tolman-Hild says the family had traveled out of state for the Thanksgiving holiday.
We do know that their immediate family is vaccinated, but this individual was just not able to be vaccinated yet.
The child did go with the family to the Macy's grocery store in Provo on December 2nd, and Tolman-Hild says if you notice symptoms to call the office before going to the hospital. She says the department expects to see more measles cases as people travel for the holidays. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. In an interview with Politico, the president says he supports better health care in the U.S., but didn't say if he would support a Democratic proposal to extend Obamacare tax credits.
I'd like to get better health care. I'd like to have people buy their own health care, get much better health care. And what I want to do, very simple, I want to give the money to the people, not to the insurance companies.
So right now people are buying their holiday presents. They're planning
Look, don't be dramatic.
No.
Don't be dramatic.
They're planning their budgets
for
next year, Mr. President.
I know. And what I want to do is help them.
The Senate is expected to vote on this proposal sometime this week. Your money at this moment, the Dow is down 95 points. The S&P is up 5 points. And coming up, sun and haze. KSL Weather's next. KSL News Time, 11:02.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
You gave years, maybe decades to your job. You showed up, worked hard, and planned for retirement. But now, the company's changed. Or maybe you've taken a buyout or been forced into early retirement. So, what happens next? I'm Jeff Jr., founder of Trajan Wealth. And if you've built up a 401k or thrift savings plan, now is the time to ask, is that money really working for you? Many workplace retirement plans offer limited options and even less guidance. At Trajan Wealth, we help people just like you roll over their accounts into IRAs with more flexibility and personalized investment strategies built around your goals. For households with $500,000 or more, let us build you a personalized plan. We operate on veteran values, service, trust, and doing what's right. Your next chapter starts now. Call Trajan today. 801-207-9900. That's 801-207-9900.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. See website for details.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
You know, most diets will help you lose a few pounds, but Soda weight loss will help you lose years. I lost 37 pounds on the Soda weight loss program 3 years ago, and I feel younger than I've felt in decades. And it's not because of how I look, it's because of how I feel.
But you do look younger,
Thank
too.
you.
I let go of 70 pounds in 5 months, and then I looked at the before and after pictures of myself and was like, wow.
It's something when you don't have to carry all of that excess weight around. And I was at a stage in my life where I didn't want to add drugs to my regimen. I wanted to reduce the number of medications I had to take. So the nutritionist at Soda Weight Loss taught me how to have a healthy relationship with food.
And it was so helpful that I could text my nutritionist anytime I wanted to for advice, which helped me learn what I needed to know so that I could keep it off. And right now, this is the perfect time to join, because if you join now, your partner joins for free. It's the perfect gift for both of you.
It's at Soda Weight Loss.
SOTAweightloss.com, because soda is, say it with me, Amanda, state of the art.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Visa Triple Rewards. Here's Ricky Meeks.
In Utah, county crews have just cleared an accident that had been over to the left side of the road just after Center Street on I-15, and it is actually looking at a good drive once again on the main flow and the ramps around it. And then we also had a disabled vehicle right in the middle of traffic on the ramp eastbound I-215 southbound at State Street. It's been moved out of traffic. So we are back to a quiet drive on the freeways and our main secondaries. The Good Feet store is supporting you with comfort no matter what the day brings. Find the location nearest you at goodfeet.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
A high of 52 with cloudy skies today. Tomorrow, the sun comes out and stays the rest of the week. Highs will get near 60 degrees on Wednesday, and a bit of haze moves in on Thursday. Right now, 46 and cloudy. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com for Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Well, the United States Supreme Court heard arguments on Monday on an issue that's kind of interesting, at least for us legal geeks, Dave. You humor me because we did Quicksand and Skulls.
Yeah, that's right. I owe you this
so
one.
We'll,
Absolutely.
Yeah, there we go. President Trump had removed a Democratic member of the Federal Trade Commission for policy reasons, not for what we call for cause. The issue becomes whether or not he has the authority to do that. And we have some precedents in this country, legal precedent, because these are independent agencies, and they're independent for a reason. An elected official doesn't just get to appoint their Federal Trade Commissioner. There are certain bodies that we have decided have to have some autonomy and have to be apolitical.
Now, when you say we, I'm assuming that's through an act of Congress, or how does that come about?
Yeah, well, it's really been through the Supreme Court through years, but it is Congress, yes. But what can the president do? So to help us understand that's a great question. We've got Kelsey Dallas, managing editor of SCOTUS blog. Kelsey, how badly did I butcher this?
No, you made sense of a complicated situation. So good setup for the conversation.
Okay, so what can you tell us about, because I'm looking here, it seems like the Supreme Court's leaning toward setting aside what is 90 years of legal precedent.
Yeah, this is a very interesting dispute because the Supreme Court had basically considered the exact same question in 1935 in a case called Humphrey's Executor, looking at whether it was appropriate for Congress to place limitations on when the president could remove a commissioner on the Federal Trade Commission. And now that exact same question is before the court. Obviously, because it's during this term where the court is already wrestling with a number of difficult questions coming from the Trump administration, it puts a spin on this case where maybe a cynical observer is saying, oh, the court is just going to side with Trump. It always sides with Trump. But this case has a decades old runway sort of leading up to it, where the court has expressed frustration with that 1935 decision and said, was it really appropriate for the Congress to create these independent agencies? Is it appropriate for them to say these agencies live in the executive branch, but the head of the executive branch, the president, can't actually remove the leaders unless there is cause? So it was important to keep that context in mind yesterday, that this is a court that's, yes, grappling with a question brought up by President Trump, but also a question that's been sort of haunting the court for decades.
So this could have some fairly far-reaching effects, though, Kelsey, because we know that the president is not happy with the Fed in terms of interest rates, and that's another, I believe, independent agency. I mean, could this lead to other firings if the Supreme Court goes the way of the administration?
That's a great question. And yes, the court is going to look specifically at the Fed next month in a case that's about President Trump's effort to remove one of the Fed governors. I will say that during arguments yesterday, the same justices who seemed pretty open to the idea of Trump removing a commissioner on the Federal Trade Commission without cause were expressing concern about the president being able to do the same thing with the Fed. There's a sense among court watchers that the Fed will be treated differently than other similarly situated agencies because the Fed is engaged in a different type of work.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
so
that is
you
interesting.
kind of piecemeal it. So it also seemed, Kelsey, and I'm just reading some of the articles about it, that the more liberal justices were not as willing to set aside 90 years of precedent as the conservative justices.
Right. The liberal justices are saying this is a dangerous move to undo something that has been in place for 90 years. They were saying that if you remove our assumptions about these independent agencies, potentially making them less independent because the president would get to have a more significant say in the leadership and the ability to disrupt the leadership more regularly, that you're shaking the foundation of the country. Of course, there's also a different argument which says you have to shake this up because the structure is not working for the country anymore. And that's where a lot of the conservative justices are coming from, which is, yes, we may have traveled down this path for 90 years, but we've ended up in a place where agencies housed within the executive branch don't actually have anybody overseeing them, that the president can't carry out the policies the president wishes to carry out because there's no ability to replace a lot of these leaders.
So, Kelsey, at issue in this particular case is a woman named Rebecca Slaughter, who was a Democrat appointed to the Federal Trade Commission. To me, I'm wondering if there's any argument that at least the president has to have some reason for it, or is it just one of those, hey, you're the president and you can fire whoever you want?
The Trump administration and the conservative justices seem to open to this, are saying that the president wouldn't need to have a reason like dereliction of duty or irresponsible behavior, like that the president could really remove someone just because they don't feel like that person is in a position to carry out their policy priorities. However, this agency, as well as other multi-member independent agencies, there are rules for who the president can appoint to fill that spot. There are restrictions on the mix of Democrats and Republicans, for example. So it's not as if, even if the Supreme Court rules in Trump's favor, Trump would be able to have an all-Republican FTC. It would just come down to being able to remove one Democrat and replace that with another Democrat.
Kelsey, let me ask you another question. This is completely a shift here, but birthright citizenship, is that something the Supreme Court is taking up? And if so, do you know when we'll hear arguments on that?
Yes, the court just announced that on Friday. So listeners might be confused because, yes, the court did hear a birthright citizenship case last term and announced its decision in June, but that was really on this side issue about what lower courts can do to block the birthright citizenship order.
The universal order kind of thing.
Yes, now the court is going to take up the main question, which is, is Trump's effort to limit this promise of citizenship to anyone born in the country or almost anyone born in the country, does that violate the Constitution and the Supreme Court's precedents? So the court has now said, yes, they're definitely going to weigh in. They're going to hear arguments, and it will likely be in March or April that those arguments take place. So that's kind of the typical schedule where there will be this announcement that the court is hearing the case, but then it takes quite a while for the court to work it onto its schedule.
Interesting. Well, we'll be watching that as well, and I'm sure that we'll be in touch with you again, Kelsey. Kelsey Dallas, managing editor of SCOTUS blog, who's very generous about joining.
Yeah, that was some great analysis.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm the legal geek, and
I just sat back and listened because I was like, yeah, she knows what she's talking about.
Definitely does. When we come back, the University of Utah just landed $8 million to launch a first-of-its-kind prison education center. How could this change lives behind bars and beyond? We'll learn more after the break.
Hi, this is Doug Wright. The other night with my wife, Dee, we saw Frozen at Hale Center Theater, and it was delightful. I have a little confession. You know the song, Let It Go? My little granddaughters sing that so much that I'm afraid I haven't fully appreciated it until I saw it performed at Hale Center Theater. The artistry of the presentation and the staging brought that song to life for me. I have become a true believer. And the puppetry at Hale Center Theater, when they bring Sven out and when they have Olaf, you are going to love it. And don't forget, they have special presentations of Frozen where you can bring the younger kids. We've already got that booked for our family. It's Frozen on the stage right now at Hale Center Theater. And of course, you've got to make sure you get your tickets for A Christmas Carol. It always sells out. And by the way, Frozen is selling out very, very fast. Go to hct.org and lock down those tickets. Get season tickets for the holidays and so much more. hct.org.
Tired of hearing scary radio ads about the IRS? Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000 or $500,000, we have a solution. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS with zero risk to you. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with a BBB. End your tax nightmare today by visiting TRA.com or call 800-583-6681. That's 800-583-6681.
This is the story of the one. As the purchasing manager at a manufacturing plant, she knows the only thing more important than having the right safety gear is having it there when you need it. That's why she partners with Grainger for auto reordering, so her team members can count on her to have cut-resistant gloves on hand, and each shift can run safely and efficiently. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Many people worry they're not making the right investment choices inside their 401ks. Did you know that you might have a little-known opportunity to add some additional investment choices to your 401k and get the help and recommendations you've been looking for? This exciting feature is called a self-directed brokerage window. And the best part? The money still stays within your 401k. Learn how the trusted advisors at Capital Wealth may be able to expand your investment portfolio. To learn more, call or text the word VISIT to 801-877-9800 or go to CapitalWealth401k.com. Improving your 401k might mean the difference of retiring a few years earlier. Let's find out. Schedule your no-cost 15-minute consultation with the Capital Wealth team today. Call or text the word VISIT to 801-877-9800 or go to CapitalWealth401k.com. Advisory services offered through Capital Wealth Advisors, LLC, a state of Utah registered investment advisor.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like other money managers, but we're different.
Are you really that different than the rest of us?
We are. As a fiduciary, we always focus on what's best for our clients.
What services do you offer besides investing?
We have a team of specialists in financial planning, estate planning, and more.
Your clients rely on you for all that?
Yes, we ensure clients receive unparalleled service at every step of the relationship.
Okay, but you still sell commission-based products, right?
No, because we believe that's a conflict of interest. We prioritize service over sales goals.
So, then how do your fees work?
We have a simple and transparent fee that's a percentage of our clients' portfolios. So we do better when our clients do better.
Wow, we're more different than I thought.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have Leaf Filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/radio to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
To get this special radio offer, go to leaffilter.com/radio for your free gutter inspection today and get up to 30% off. That's leaffilter.com/radio for up to 30% off. leaffilter.com/radio. See representative for warranty details.
Join Lagoon's construction team and help build the fun. Lagoon is now hiring full-time, year-round CDL heavy equipment operators, concrete finishers, and plumbers, 18 years or older. Apply to lagoonpark.com/jobs.
My savings are gone.
Okay, where were they last?
Here, right before I spent them on that vacation to Aruba.
Weird. Not weird. Not saving now means no money later. For free ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
The new Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. I'm alongside Dave Colley. And Dave, you know, I've worked in the criminal justice system for over 40 years. I've worked as a prosecutor, as a defense attorney, and one of the things that struck me about our prison system and our jail system was a comment that I heard from it's actually a colleague of mine who went to prison. A good friend of mine, he went to prison. And when he came out, he told me this, I'll never forget it. He said, the thing that we don't appreciate with these people who are in prison is they're going to get out someday.
Mm.
You know, like it's one thing to say, okay, you're bad and you need to go away for 5 years. But at the end of 5 years, they're coming out.
Right.
And so we, you know, I know resources are a huge part of this and just, you know, the public's interest in, hey, do we really want to give somebody in prison a college education? But if you don't do something, they don't know what to do when they get out.
You're setting them up for failure.
You're setting them up for failure. And so I was really interested in this project that the University of Utah got involved in. They received $8 million awarded by the Ascendium Education Group to establish a prison education action research lab, PEARL.
Okay.
So that's
a lot of words. Can we explain what it is? Like, what is this?
Hope we can get that. So we've got with us a couple of guests. One is Aaron Castro, co-founder of the Utah Prison Education Project, who can probably break it down quite well for us. And we've also got Jason Taylor, because I can't read, Associate Professor of Education, Leadership, and Policy. Let me start with you, Aaron. Tell us about this project.
Hi, yes, of course. Well, PEARL, it is a lot of words, but essentially what it means is that we are launching the first national research center on prison education, and our intent is to build better data, better information for policy and practice, because right now we don't know a lot about what post-secondary educational opportunities are available for incarcerated folks.
Is part of that just because, I mean, it varies so much across different, like prison systems? I'm thinking, you know, Utah runs its own, every state runs its own, you've got a federal system, and there's probably, I'm guessing, tell me if I'm wrong, very little standardization about what happens with education within the prison systems.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. I think, you know, as educational scholars, Jason and myself, you know, we're really looking at this in a similar way to how we look at various other student populations. And so while there's maybe not a ton of standardization yet, we do know that colleges and universities, through their accreditation requirements, you know, when they enroll students, we can expect a certain level of quality, a certain level of rigor. And we are interested in finding out what college and prison looks like, what it can look like, and the kinds of impacts that it can make for people, communities, and society.
So, Jason, tell us where we go from here. The word has been made. I guess you're getting things set up, but tell us what your plan is.
Yeah, well, thanks for having us. We have a pretty bold agenda for the center. There's sort of three large buckets of work. The largest bucket and the sort of anchor project is what we're calling PERI, the Prison Education Research Initiative, which is a sort of first of its kind multi-institutional study involving 20 plus institutions and programs around the country to participate in a multi-year study, answering pretty basic questions around, what, as Aaron mentioned, how are programs designed, and who enrolls, what credentials do they receive or not receive, and importantly, post-release to sort of your comments at the beginning of the segment, how do these programs impact students post-release, and what opportunities are available to them in both educational and workforce. So that's the largest project. We also, and maybe I'll kick it over to Erin to talk a little bit about UPEP and the online credential, which are the other two buckets of work and that she's leading out on.
Go ahead, Erin.
Sure. I think the Utah Prison Education Project is part of a larger prison education portfolio at the University of Utah. Dr. Andy Eisen is our director, and he oversees programming in the 6 juvenile facilities across the state, and then adult credit-bearing and non-credit-bearing program at the Utah State Prison. And that kind of commitment is really important for us to have at the center at the University of Utah, so that we can also be a model for other research-intensive institutions seeking to do this work and seeking to do it well, and kind of learning what needs to happen on college campuses for these programs to be meaningful and to ultimately help transform campus. It's not simply just about providing education to incarcerated learners. It's also enriching our campus community and our broader community.
What's the I guess life of this program? Is there some period of time after which we're expected to get some findings or some from you all?
Yeah, and just to clarify, is this a question about the prison education programming we do in Utah?
Yes.
Or
I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think about 3 years ago, the legislature created the Higher Education and Corrections Council, and part of their charge has been working with USHE, the Utah State System of Higher Ed, to get a better understanding of what post-secondary opportunity looks like for incarcerated people in our state. Their latest report was published just last month. And so I think in the, kind of very basic descriptive, we have some information, but we're like many states where we don't have all the information that we need to make really sound kind of data-informed policy recommendations and practice. And that's largely a consequence of just kind of the various different sectors that have to come together here for prison higher education to happen. And so I think when we figure out as a state kind of, all right, who's going to include the, funding for the budget for an evaluation? And, I think the center, this is some of the work that the center can really help with, because we come in as external researchers to states and to institutions, and we're able to do some of this really critical evaluative work.
I'm wondering about just, this is a lot of work. This is what I'm taking away from this conversation is it's a big problem to wrap your hands around, to get your mind around. And, this kind of big headline of, hey, we've got $8 million to help do this. Like, you've clearly been in the trenches in this for a long time. How did that hit you, finding out that you had this basically runway to take this passion and turn it into something real?
Oh, man, is that a question? I think, Jason and I have just been reminding ourselves that we just got the grant like 3 months ago, right? And so we're still just getting our feet underneath of us, but it's surreal. And I think we had a planning grant before this large grant to kind of assess, and I'm really proud of our community because in the course of 2 years, we made a lot of things happen. We started a bachelor's degree program at the Utah State facility on the women's designated side. We have a cohort of students who will graduate with their bachelor's degree in 2 years, and I hope that that's the start of many more. And then we're hiring, we're working with research participants. And so I haven't had a ton of time to kind of sit back and be like, wow, this is pretty big, but maybe over the break, I'll get some time to reflect.
Well, I'll just add, it's humbling, and it's also just empowering the type of center that this funding is supporting is, it's pretty remarkable that is as Aaron mentioned, at the University of Utah, and at a place where we can sort of leverage the full collective resources of the university and our College of Education to, as the name of Pearl implies, do research that's actionable and that will have an impact on the field. And on students and on our communities and on society, hopefully in the short term, but certainly in the long term. So it's humbling.
Yeah, that's such amazing work, and I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes. Jason and Aaron, thank you so much for your time today.
Dave, this is very good news.
It is.
Like this is something that needs to be done.
Absolutely. I mean, we've talked a lot about crime so far today, and, I think we're going to do a little more because I'm going to steal the next segment, Greg, and talk about the fact that, on this day, 16 years ago, a guy named Josh Powell, who some listening might remember, he disappeared for 18 hours. Nobody knows where he was. I want to tell you about a clue in that case that not many people know about. So that's coming up after the break.
11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Heather Peterson. KSL's top local story this hour, Utah lawmakers will meet in a special session tonight to address the court's role in Utah's redistricting process, as well as a bill that deals with unions and public workers. KSL News Radio's Adam Small has the rundown.
The special session will kick off later tonight, but lawmakers will start holding committee hearings here at the Capitol at noon. One of the committees is expected to hear the results of several performance audits regarding the criminal justice system in both Salt Lake County and Salt Lake City. Then another committee is expected to discuss legislation that deals with the jurisdiction of Utah's appellate courts. The full House and Senate will meet starting at 6 o'clock tonight, where they're expected to go over the court's role in redistricting and vote to repeal a bill that bans collective bargaining for public workers. The session's expected to wrap up by 8 o'clock tonight. At the Utah State Capitol, Adam Small, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News. A district judge has given the green light to release the grand jury materials related to Ghislaine Maxwell's case. She was the associate of sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. More from ABC's Catherine Falders.
The judge had previously denied this and says in the motion, or says in this order, that because of the act that was passed in Congress that these files can now be released. But again, it's not clear whether this will really reveal any new information that hasn't already been made public.
Falders reports this is still far from the full amount of materials in the Justice Department's possession. Your money at this moment, the Dow is down 101 points, the S&P is up 7, and the NASDAQ is up 66. Coming up, we're turning up the temperature this week. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:32.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
You probably know if you need new windows. You hear the wind whistling. There's condensation between the panes. Maybe your heating bill's too high, but you don't want to pull the trigger because it costs a lot of money. I understand. And they understand at Advanced Window Products. After all, they've been creating custom state-of-the-art windows right here in Salt Lake for 39 years. They know what's up. That's why they offer 60-month 0% financing or buy now, pay later. You get the windows this winter for 30 to 40% less because you're buying straight from the factory. They'll build, they'll install your windows, and you don't have to pay for a year or more. At Advanced, they're committed to making your new windows affordable. And if you call now, they'll knock another $2,500 off your quote. State-of-the-art, energy-saving windows built here for Utah's changing climate. And right now, $2,500 off. Call for a quote, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or go to advancedwindows.com.
$5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year. $5,000. That's crazy. If you drive, you have to download Upside, the free app that gives you cash back every time you get gas. That's right. You can earn real cash back with Upside just by buying the gas you're already buying. You can literally start earning cash back today.
I use Upside every time I fill up, and I've already made around $200-$300.
You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get real cash back? If you like free money, download Upside.
I'm saving the cash I earn from using Upside to help pay for a vacation later this year.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code BOOST25 to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code BOOST25 for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code BOOST25 for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent from Alpine Home Medical, and I'm humbled to win Utah's Best of State for 2025 for the 15th year in a row. After 28 years, we're all about you. Over 1,700 5-star Google reviews and a 4.8 customer satisfaction score to prove it. We'll keep working hard for you. I've spent this year advocating with lawmakers for better Medicare reimbursement, ensuring you always have the best access to medical supplies you need. From Idaho Falls to St. George, our 11 stores are your home for comfort. When you hear Alpine Home Medical, think of that best of state experience every single time. Visit us online at alpinehomemedical.com. That's alpinehomemedical.com.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Visa Triple Rewards. Here's Ricky Meese.
Right now we are seeing a pretty good drive along I-15 in Salt Lake County, Utah County, and Davis counties. The rest of your Valley freeways also looking good. We do have an accident reported southbound Mountain View corridor at Old Bingham Highway. Odyssey Dance Theater's Christmas Spectacular, starring David Osmond. Fill your heart with the Christmas spirit this year. Visit odysseydance.com for tickets. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
A high of 52 in the forecast today, and that's going to climb up to 57 tomorrow. Then more of the same throughout the week, with 56 on Thursday, 54 on Friday and Saturday. Right now it's cloudy and 48 degrees. I'm Heather Peterson from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
So, Greg, this is Dave Colley, by the way, KSL podcast and news radio reporter, investigative reporter, host of the Cold Podcast. I say all that to set up where I'm going to take this next segment.
Yeah.
On this day, 16 years ago, a man named Josh Powell, who lived in West Valley City, he showed up. He was a suspect in the disappearance of his wife, Susan Powell, a couple days earlier. So anyone who was living in Utah following the news at the time probably remembers this. December 7th, Monday morning of 2009, Susan Powell, her husband Josh, their two kids, Charlie and Braden, are reported missing. And it sets off what became just an international media fury surrounding this case. West Valley City Police very quickly honed in on Josh Powell, who showed up later that afternoon with his two boys in the minivan that the family owned, saying he had no idea where his wife was. He believed she would have gone to work. Susan's never been found. And so on December 8th, the following day of 2009, West Valley City Police interviewed Josh Powell. Very clear from this interview that he is playing games with them. He's not being forthright and honest.
And probably that they suspect him as a
Very much
that
so.
he's more than just a person of interest.
Very much so. I think there was, from conversations I've had with people involved in the case and all the documentation, he was a suspect. He was the suspect.
Right.
And at the end of this interview, the detective who was leading the investigation basically tells Josh, I'm serving a search warrant on your vehicle. I'm serving a search warrant on your home. You're free to go. You're not under arrest, but I have your car and I have your house. And Josh Powell sits in the lobby of the West Valley City Police Department for several hours. He finally goes across the street, calls a cab, takes that cab to the Salt Lake City International Airport. He rents a car, and then he is gone for 18 hours. Nobody knows where he was during that time.
He didn't fly, though.
He did not fly. He rented a car.
At the airport.
At the airport.
Right.
Right? So you go up to the rental car, you give him your credit
right.
card, you get a car. When he returns the car, he's put 807 miles on. Again, he's gone for 18 hours. There's a little bit of driving that we know he does, to his sister house here in the Salt Lake Valley. But basically, 800 miles. You figure the bulk of that in these 18 hours. If you do the math, he had to be driving pretty much constantly.
Almost the whole time, right.
Right? So an interesting thing happened when I was reporting on this story, Greg, and I want to get your take on it because later on in the investigation, the West Valley City Police Department, they've done everything they can think of to try to find Susan and to try to build a case against Josh. They haven't got there. We heard from Sim Gill earlier, the Salt Lake County District Attorney earlier, about the process, the screening. The detectives had repeatedly gone to the DA and said, here's what we got. We would like to arrest Josh. And they're being told, no, you don't have a body.
Don't have enough
You don't
yet.
have a case,
Right.
So they went and got a warrant, what's called a T3 warrant. I'm sure you're familiar, for a wiretap.
Oh, yes, right.
And the idea is they're going to listen to Josh Powell and his dad and his brother, Michael, their private conversations, and hope that they say something in these phone calls that leads them to evidence.
Sure.
Right? So I want to share with you.
Those are hard to get.
They are
They're
impossible.
very
Well, they're
difficult.
difficult for law enforcement.
For law enforcement.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So
because you have an expectation of privacy to your conversations, and you have to have some pretty compelling evidence to go to a judge with and say, we think that there's something going on here. We'd like to wiretap this phone and then talk and listen to the conversations that the individual's having.
And because of that privacy that you mentioned, like, as I understand it, tell me if I'm wrong, the law enforcement agency has to do everything else first.
Sure.
Something I guess they call exhaustion.
Right.
Right. And so in this case, like, it's very clear they've tried a lot of things. They've not been able to get there. So this is kind of the Hail Mary pass.
Right. We're trying to get this evidence, and we've done A, B, C, D, and E. We're at a dead end. Can we get this? There's nothing else we can do to get this evidence except perhaps get this phone tap.
So a lot of people probably don't know that this was taking place during a very pivotal moment in this investigation. They might remember that Josh Powell, the suspect, the husband in this case, he had moved up to Washington with the two boys shortly after Susan disappeared. He's living there at his dad's house, and police up in Tacoma, in Pierce County, Washington, they serve a search warrant on the dad's house. There are police searches taking place out in Ely, Nevada, around some mines and things like that. Okay. These wiretaps, we in the media, we never get to see these.
Right.
Because of the privacy concern.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, they're sealed. They're very private.
During the course of my reporting on this story, I was able to get access, a very rare circumstance, to what they call line sheets. And this is basically, it's not a word-for-word transcript, but it's a summary of what the investigators' listenings were hearing, right?
Right. The reason they're so private, obviously you know this, is because you've got a suspect who you can listen to, but then you've got other people who, they're not suspects in a crime. Maybe.
Right.
So you're intruding on their privacy as well.
You're sweeping up a lot of information.
Right.
I want to share with you, Greg, when I was going through these line sheets, there was a moment in one of these calls where Josh is talking to his brother, he's talking to his dad and to his sister about what the police were doing. And so I'll just read this verbatim. Josh talks about police actions, speculates that the police got a warrant and searched a car that he had rented, and specifically states that they could have found a piece of topaz. So he's trying to say, why would they be looking, at Topaz Mountain at Ely, Nevada?
Right.
Josh states he's not responsible for who had the car before or after him. Josh talks about how much mileage was placed on the rental car. Josh tells Stephen, that's his dad, that it doesn't matter where he went and that he could have gone to St. George or maybe north, south, east, or west. Josh, goes on about what he's thinking and feeling. Then Steve, the father, asks Josh about this rental car again, so he comes back to the topic. And Josh says, I think there was probably a warrant served on the car that I rented. He was right. And he basically says, I just drove around Salt Lake City. I maybe put 300 miles on the car. So he basically less than half of what he actually put on it. So he's lying to his family. And he says, well, they didn't find DNA in the car. And unless they can find DNA, they can't pin this on me. Later on in another part of the conversation, he says during this period of 18 hours when he was missing in this rental car, he was seen by a gas station attendant and was very memorable. And we've never heard from that person.
Yeah,
so
that would be nice.
The reason I bring this all back after 16 years is somebody out there saw Josh Powell during these 18 hours 16 years ago. And if they are out there, Utah, Idaho, wherever they are, I would love to hear from them.
Absolutely. And even after 16 years, it's interesting, Dave, because even though it's a 16-year-old case, I don't know, there's something about us that we're almost obsessed with these true crime stories and wanting to know. And he's dead, and she's gone. His father's dead. There's police probably assume there's no one that's ever going to be charged with this now. But wouldn't you like to know?
Oh, I would.
A little bit more.
Yes.
Well, when we come back, we're going to talk about some of these real stories and real people and have a little bit more with my co-host, Dave Colley. Stay with us.
Most diets will help you lose a few pounds, but Soda weight loss will help you lose years. I lost 37 pounds on the Soda weight loss program 3 years ago, and I feel younger than I've felt in decades. And it's not because of how I look, it's because of how I feel.
But you do look younger,
Thank
too.
you.
I let go of 70 pounds in 5 months, and then I looked at the before and after pictures of myself and was like, wow.
It's something when you don't have to carry all of that excess weight around. And I was at a stage in my life where I didn't want to add drugs to my regimen. I wanted to reduce the number of medications I had to take. So the nutritionist at Soda Weight Loss taught me how to have a healthy relationship with food.
And it was so helpful that I could text my nutritionist anytime I wanted to for advice, which helped me learn what I needed to know so that I could keep it off. And right now, this is the perfect time to join because if you join now, your partner joins for free. It's the perfect gift for both of you.
It's at Soda Weight Loss.
SOTAweightloss.com because soda is, say it with me, Amanda, state of the art.
I don't know if you noticed, Dave, but winter is here. And a lot of kids here in Utah don't have warm coats and shoes to get them through the cold months ahead.
KSL's Quarters for Christmas has been helping local children for years, Greg. They're turning your donations into warm coats and shoes for kids right here in our community.
And every dollar you give goes directly to providing coats and shoes for kids who need them most. It's easy to make a difference. Just go online to kslquarters.com, donate whatever you can, and know you're helping keep a child warm this winter.
Yeah, absolutely. Please join us in spreading a little comfort and a lot of kindness with KSL's Quarters for Christmas.
More than 50 million Americans suffer from a form of mental illness.
And Utah isn't immune, with nearly 1 in 3 people dealing with anxiety, depression, or another form of mental illness.
But there's hope. We can all take action to keep ourselves and our loved ones safe.
That's why KSL has teamed with the Huntsman Mental Health Foundation to bring you hope and help you thrive.
It's Healthy Mind Matters.
Find out more at healthymindmatters.com.
Hi, this is Doug Wright. You've heard me talk now for years about the Connecticut soft water system that we have in our home. As we head into the colder weather, if you're dealing with dry and itchy skin, do you notice your skin is cracking? It's uncomfortable and the lotion doesn't seem to give you the relief you need? Hard water may be a hidden contributor to that pain and discomfort of dry, itchy skin. I've got Monty here from Connecticut Quality Water Systems of Salt Lake, an authorized independent Connecticut dealer and an expert in overcoming challenges with hard water here in Utah.
Yeah, thanks, Doug. When you shower in hard water, the minerals don't rinse away completely, forming a film in your skin, leaving you feeling tight, dry, and constantly itching.
So the hard water minerals are essentially leaving a sticky residue on my body and even in my hair?
Exactly. Connecticut removes the minerals before they touch your skin, leaving you feeling silky, smooth, and comfortable.
Do what I did and stop buying expensive lotions and start treating the source of the problem. Find out how soft your water could be at softwaterutah.com.
Women go through many changes in their lives. And we believe each milestone matters, that every new candle represents another step in your story. Our healthcare experts support women at every stage of life, because each chapter deserves to be celebrated. Women's Health. Nurture what's next. Find care near you at mountain.commonspirit.org. Common Spirit Health. Human kindness lives here.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. Deseret Management Corporation is a global operating company with a wide range of businesses dedicated to serving communities and strengthening values. Joining us to share news on some exciting reopenings is Temple Square Hospitality Corporation President Gary Porter.
2025 has been a year of reopening for Temple Square Hospitality Corporation. In July, we welcomed guests back to the Garden Restaurant, and in November, the Roof Restaurant officially reopened, providing a truly elevated dining experience, quite literally. Located 10 floors up in the historic Joseph Smith Memorial Building, you'll be treated to unforgettable views and a culinary experience that's uniquely Utah. Our menu draws inspiration from local food favorites, showcasing familiar Utah flavors with a twist. Whether you're looking for a night on the town, a celebration, a dine-in business meeting, or a casual lunch, the Roof is sure to elevate every occasion. The Roof will be open for both lunch and dinner, Monday through Saturday. All information about the menu, the private dining rooms, and reservations can be found online at theroofslc.com.
The reopenings at Temple Square Hospitality Corporation showcase the remarkable work happening downtown, bringing people together through vibrant experiences. These efforts strengthen the community and continue making Temple Square a centerpiece of Salt Lake City life. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
Any Hour Services can help you make sure your furnace keeps you warm this winter. Whether you need a tune-up, a repair, or a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Inside Sources.
So, Dave, you got me hooked about 6 months ago on this podcast that you'd created called the Uinta Triangle. And I had never really listened to the multi-level podcast, the multi-series
kind of episode after episode.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And after that, and I loved it. I listened to, I went through every one of them. But then I sort of have followed up on that a little bit. And I've been following a couple of podcasts. I'm through both of them that both deal with, I think they're called Stolen Voices. Some involving some, both serial killers in different parts of the country, different periods of time, taking young females and killing them. It was just awful, the podcast. But I've never thought of myself as being interested in true crime because I do crime. I live true crime. Yeah. But these cases were so fascinating. You can't turn them off. And it made me think, why we almost have an obsession in America about true crime. And you watch TV, you have true crime shows, you have documentaries, you have whatnot. And I've even been in some. I've even watched some because I've represented some high-profile people. And you think, man, people, you just can't get enough of it.
It's really interesting, and I feel conflicted about it myself as somebody, not in the legal side, but in the news media side. I see these productions. I've made a few myself. I've learned a lot about not only the criminal justice system, which we've talked a lot about today on the show, but also kind of the ethics of creating crime as entertainment, and also how we all collectively consume and talk about these stories with each other.
Yeah, when I read police reports and when I'm involved with the case and the police send me the information, the prosecutor sends me stuff, then you almost live the crime. Mm-hmm. You start, like we talked about that case with the guy with the hit and run,
right.
Or the one-way driver, and he killed the two people. And as you read the probable cause statement, it's like a movie. It's like you're listening to something, but it happened. Right. It was real. I mean, I've even been to crime scenes. When I was at the DA's office, I would go to, when people had been killed, I would go out to the scene and just looking at a body there and just dealing with the police and sort of standing near a dead body while the ME did his or her work. It's like you're living it, but but it's like a dream. Like you're not really there. You know what I mean? So when I watch these true crime things, I think about that. Like you're back there. You're back watching that. And I'm looking at this story that was in the Deseret News. 83% of Americans, many over the age of 13, consumed true crime books, discourses, or other content this last year. In podcasts alone, this market is worth $2.3 billion, reaching 42 million Americans. 1/3 of the U.S. podcast listeners choose true crime shows, including 44% of women. 57% of women with a high school education or less. Women are more interested in these kind of podcasts than men. And Crime Junkie, I'm not familiar with that one.
Oh, I am.
Is the country's second most popular podcast with 2 billion downloads.
Which is an astounding number, right? So the true crime podcast that I did, Cold, we talked about last segment, the Susan Powell case, that was a big deal. And it did very well in terms of how many people listened. And I'm immensely grateful for that platform and the ability that it provided us to talk about domestic abuse and, highlighting red flags, helping other people escape dangerous situations. So there's a part of me that looks at those kinds of numbers and says, well, yeah, it makes sense because, we collectively in society are interested in these stories about the worst of the worst. There's a certain degree of we project ourselves into them. What if that was me? What can I learn from this thing? On the flip side of that coin, I'm wondering from your perspective, how often have you seen crime reporting, whether it's a podcast or, TV or whatever, and you have personal knowledge and you go, well, wait a minute, they got that all wrong.
A lot.
A lot.
Unfortunately. It is. And I don't blame it on people who are, I think some of it, the media needs to make it a little more interesting than it is. Meaning
somebody in my position has a tendency to overhype something? Is that what you're saying?
To make it more interesting.
Yeah.
To sensationalize is not the right word. And a lot of times it's because they're getting their information from bad sources. Maybe I am too. I work with law enforcement. When I was at the DA's office, we worked on a lot of cold cases, some that were ice cold, that you're just years down the road. And so I would have my take on it. Of course, you'd get calls from people, I've done some high profile cases, and then you just get these calls from these people who are like, hey, I've got this information. You know what I mean? And you're like, whoa, stay away. Even the Charlie Kirk case, and I'm not involved in that case, and it's not a cold case anymore. I was involved only to the extent that I worked with the Utah County Attorney's Office and appointing the public defender. But some people thought I was the attorney for the suspect in that case.
Okay.
And I've had the weirdest calls, from people who are, they caught the wrong person. Well, I know who really did it. There were these things flying over the stadium at the time. Just bizarre things. And then, and you're sitting there going, no, I know the facts of the case. And even my own cases that I've represented people on, and you hear and read things and you're like, that's not the way it happened. But people get into crime. They want to know about crime. And none of us want to know that there's a bad guy out there that wasn't caught. That's another problem. And that's sort of with your cold program, because law enforcement, cases get cold, but they're not ice cold. There's something still on the burner.
I had a really interesting conversation when I first started reporting for the Cold podcast about the Susan Powell case. One of the first interviews I did was with a guy up in Washington named Dr. James Manley. He was the forensic psychologist who had been tasked by the courts with evaluating Josh Powell. And this was shortly before Josh Powell took his 2 kids' lives and his own. And in that conversation, Dr. Manley was trying to impress upon me the idea that these kinds of outcomes, a family annihilation homicide, it's extremely rare.
Right.
And so there's a risk in putting so much attention and reporting on it that it causes people to think this is something that happens all the time. And his point was it's not. But at the same time, that's why it's interesting, right? It is the example of a very normal situation, which is domestic abuse that we know is happening in our community, in our families, in our homes, all the time. It's a problem taken to its extreme. And that extremity of it, I think, is what, for me, became very interesting about, the Powell case in particular. It's like, if everything goes wrong, this is what can happen. I don't know that I have a great, philosophical takeaway from that to share with you, but I do think there is room for all of us as we think about crime in our communities, as we see the reporting day to day, whether it's a wrong way DUI crash, whether it's a cold case homicide, to just be thoughtful about, these are actual people's lives that we're talking about. And, for a victim of crime, citizen sleuths, people who want to get involved, I have I have heard about people contacting, whether it's someone like you or literally a victim of a crime and wanting to, challenge their story. And it's like,
right.
Don't do that.
Yeah,
people.
don't do that. And it's also true, I know we're running out of time here, that you'll get a case like Susan Powell. I mean, she's the girl next door.
Yeah.
She could have been my neighbor. She could have been my daughter's best friend. I mean, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Those cases hit really, because it's not, the criminal is this person with a dark cloak and, with this strange accent and whatever. I mean, it's Josh Powell.
Just some guy.
The kid you may have gone to high school with.
Yeah.
Ted Bundy, went to the U Law School a couple years before I did. It could have been a classmate of his. Well, enough of that. Thanks for joining me today.
Oh, I'm
that was
happy
a lot
to be
of
here.
fun.
Yeah.
I really, it's always nice to have a co-host, especially when Holly had to bail out here. Today was our 6th anniversary.
Well,
Holly and I.
congratulations,
We're very
Greg.
excited about that. 6 months together. After this break, we're going to turn the time over to Midday with Maria Chaleos, who has the latest on the case of a truck driver who was found dead in his truck off I-80 last year.